Chapter 314. What was certain was that this was an existence that was more pretentious than the act-tough King Shao. Song Huang, who was at the side, was also very curious. This Qingye is pregnant, that means she definitely has a man. Originally, judging from the attitude of Qing family, they weren't satisfied with Qingye's pregnancy. However, judging from the current situation, Qing family still didn't know about the inside story. Yutong, who is your big sister's husband? Song Huang asked Qin Yutong in a low voice. Qin Yutong pursed her lips, then said faintly, my brother-in-law, that is a godlike man, if not, how could he have a woman like my big sister? Song Huang lightly laughed. The godlike man was probably just bragging, but he was definitely a very powerful man. Otherwise, Shao Yi wouldn't act like this. Facts have proven that you should never underestimate your enemy's strength, because when you meet them, it will be too late for regrets. Then, why didn't your brother-in-law come today? Song Huang asked curiously. He really wanted to take a look at his brother-in-law. Dong Wangli pouted her mouth and said, Uncle, my daddy is very busy. A child's words carry no harm. Everyone understood what he meant. Others wouldn't even bother coming to such a place. You all are mistaken. If Yi Huan knew that there were salted fishes competing in saltiness, he would definitely come over to watch the show. In fact, he would even call his subordinates over to watch the show. In the end, he would let them know why they are salted fishes. Qingye carried Dong Huangli into her embrace, then said with a slight smile, he has been rather busy recently. He silently thought to himself, he's busy giving birth to a child with the Empress, this pervert. Shao Yi took a look at Song Huang, then said to Qingye, CEO Qing, do you want to go in together with us? Shao Yi's attitude was one of respect, but in Song Huang's eyes, Shao Yi's attitude was equivalent to Song Huang tearing down his own face. After all, Qingye and Qin Yutong were brought here by Song Huang himself. Shao Yi, this isn't a good idea, right? Song Huang said in a deep voice. Since Shao Yi was prepared to slap his own face, there was no need for him to save face. Shao Yi slowly turned his head and coldly said, I'm talking to CEO Qing, when is it your turn to interrupt? The atmosphere at the scene suddenly became gloomy. Everyone held their breath. Would this year's auction be as dull as the previous years? There would probably be a good show to watch. The act-tough king had started to lead the tempo. Moreover, he was quite angry. Shao Yi was indeed very angry. It would have been fine if Song Huang hadn't said anything. But once Song Huang said something like that, he couldn't take it anymore. You actually dared to come and snatch my sword that day. Do you really think that you have a good temper? This emperor has a belly full of anger right now. Qin Yutong felt that she did not come here for nothing today. A good show is about to begin. However, it is a pity that pitiful Zizi, he is locked up at home, and tomorrow, he still has to go and register to be a primary school student, and he missed out on such a good show. But don't worry, I'll take a picture and send it to her. Let her be envious of me, haha. The little wretch would definitely go crazy with jealousy. When Song Huang heard what Shao Yi said, his face became terrifyingly gloomy. Shao Yi, you better watch your mouth. Song Huang, I advise you to not provoke me. Otherwise, I will teach you how to save yourself. Shao Yi gradually released a stream of spiritual qi, and it pressed towards Song Huang. Song Huang couldn't help but furrow his brows when he felt the rich spiritual energy in Shao Yi's body. Shao Yi's strength had risen again. With the addition of the Xianyuan sword, he was indeed no match for them. Damn it. All right, both of you, stop talking. Qingye said faintly while hugging onto Dong Huangli. This sentence that Qingye said softly was very tasteful, to the point that it was somewhat similar to Dong Huang Baiji's style. I reckon that after staying with Dong Huang Baiji for a long time during those few days, a bit of Empress aura had also been infused into Dong Huang Baiji's body. Furthermore, Dong Huang Baiji's bloodline had also awakened, and this sentence of Dong Huang Baiji's was simply like a huge pressure that made it hard for people to breathe. Everyone who was present felt that Dong Huang Baiji's words were very strange. This woman doesn't have any spiritual chi fluctuation, but the words that she spoke were filled with a sense of majesty, and the words that she spoke were unable to help but make people submit to her. This was the passive power of bloodline. Qing Yutong let out a deep sigh. Big sister is starting to act cool too. My God, when did it become my turn to act cool? This is so painful. In actuality, Yihua loved to see Qingya act cool the most. To be more precise, he loved to see his woman act cool the most. Seeing his woman act cool the most was a kind of visual and auditory enjoyment. Everyone went into a daze for a second, but very quickly, they came back to their senses. Xiao Yi naturally wouldn't say anything, and he didn't dare to say anything either. After listening to what his wife said, he would rather believe that it was true. However, Song Huang refused to accept this. I was actually frightened by a woman, and I have lost all of my face. In actuality, everyone felt that they had lost all of their face, because they were all shocked by what Qingya had said just now. However, when they thought about that mysterious man, they didn't dare to act recklessly. What if I step on a landmine? It must be said that the way of thinking of these people was very correct. If we were to really provoke Qingya today, we would have to wait for the Supreme Overlord's fury. The powers in the north would have to be completely wiped out. Suddenly, from afar, 3 Maybach formed a motorcade, and Xiao Yi's gaze became serious. Tang family's motorcade has arrived. That's right, I heard that Xiao Yi and Tang Wushuang have fallen out. Seems like a big fight is going to happen. Everyone discussed in low voices, and Xiao Yi was also listening to what they were saying. Even now, I can still feel the coldness of that knife that was stabbed in the back by my good brother in the past. However, no one would have guessed that Tang Wushuang's lamp had already been extinguished. Tang Wushuang could be seen coming down from the car. Tang Wushuang was wearing a black suit, and he appeared to be very calm. However, everyone discovered that today, Tang Wushuang actually had a beard. In the past, Tang Wushuang's beard would always be clean, and with a look, Tang Wushuang had indeed become a bit more manly. Tang Wushuang was only wearing a fake beard for the sake of concealing himself. Recently, he had been cultivating his master's cultivation technique, and his improvement was indeed very fast. However, the side effects were also very fast. His chest muscles had actually expanded, his hands had become slender, his waist had also become slender, his Adam's apple had also disappeared, and his face was also slowly changing. Recently, his vocal cords had also changed, and it was reckoned that not long later, his voice would become a female's voice. More importantly, the wound healed, and became, every day, Tang Wushuang would be scared awake by himself, and because of this, he didn't dare to sleep on the same bed as his wives. After getting off the car, Tang Wushuang didn't stop. Instead, he walked to the other side of the car and opened the car door. A man in flowery shorts and a white shirt appeared. He was looking at something on his phone with great interest. He was precisely Tang Wushuang's master, Gue Qingren. The people who were present were very unfamiliar with this man. However, from Tang Wushuang's actions, they could tell that he wasn't an ordinary person. Master, we've arrived. Tang Wushuang tried his best to pressure his vocal cords, but he was still able to hear the strangeness in Gue Qingren's voice. Gue Qingren raised his head and took a look, then lowered his head back down to read his novel, as if only the words on the phone were able to attract his attention. Tang Wushuang looked around for a bit, and very quickly, he discovered Xiao Yi's figure. The vicious aura within his body unconsciously emitted out. It is precisely because of this bastard that I became a woman. If I don't kill Xiao Yi in this life, I won't be able to vent the hatred in my heart. Gue Qingren looked at the phone and said faintly, Wushuang, if you were to make a move here today, it would be very hard for you to clean up the mess. Chapter 315. Therefore, anyone who dared to fight here, unless they had great connections or were members of the other 4 great clans, was nothing to be afraid of. Right now, Qingya pulled her little sister over to her side. I feel that this auction isn't that safe, and I have to be a bit more careful. Song Huang walked to the side of the two girls as though he was a flower protector. However, some people felt that this saint doctor was just trying to ride on their popularity. Master, disciple understands. A little impatience will spoil great plans, Gue Qingren said faintly. Because this line of words just happened to appear in the novel, he just casually said it. Yes. When everyone saw that Tang Wushuang was actually being so respectful, they became even more curious towards this mysterious man who was wearing floral shorts. Brother Xiao, don't act recklessly. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Xu Nan was also afraid that her husband would act recklessly, so she reminded him softly. Xiao Yi, of course, knew the pros and cons and patted Xu Nan's hand. However, looking at Tang Wushuang who was walking over slowly, Xiao Yi couldn't help but want to directly take out his Xinyuan sword and slash at Tang Wushuang. And when Tang Wushuang saw Xiao Yi, he couldn't wait to let Xiao Yi have a taste of himself, the taste of being a woman. This was life. Brothers of the past would turn against each other and even have to kill each other to eliminate the hatred in their hearts. When Tang Wushuang saw Qingye who was at the side, he went into a slight daze, then greeted, CEO Qing. Qingye nodded her head politely. The scene immediately went into an uproar. This Tang Wushuang didn't pay attention to anyone, and he just had to greet that beauty. Xiao Yi was like that, and this Tang Wushuang was also like that. What exactly is going on? Gue Qingren didn't greet them and didn't even look at the two women. Regarding power and women, Gue Qingren preferred novels. Song Huang felt that he was feeling very apologetic. Everyone was greeting Qingye, and yet, they just had to ignore me. Just what is going on today? Uncle, you can't do it. Dong Huangli raised her head and looked towards Song Huang, then said with a childish voice. Children's words were very deadly. Song Huang felt extremely sullen. He had never felt so sullen before. If he had known that things would turn out like this, he wouldn't have brought them along. Qingye said tenderly, Ali, you cannot be impolite. Oh, uncle, you are the best. Dong Huangli responded, then said to Song Huang. Ultimate kill. Being scolded by a child and then given a candy to comfort you, you still had to face it with a smile. How hurtful. The show was not over yet. At this moment, a fleet of 4 Rolls-Royces arrived. The Bai family is here. Yeah, I didn't expect the Bai family to show up for this auction. It's my honor to meet this northern beauty today. What does it have to do with those 2 women and the northern beauty? That's true. The 4 cars slowly stopped. Wang Debao was the first to get out of the car. He opened the car door for his wife like a little brother. Bai Cixin was wearing a white dress, and her pretty face was covered with a veil, as if she did not want others to see her face. If it was in the past, everyone would think that this veil was very mysterious and classy. But now, why do I feel that wearing this veil on my face is so weird? Look at other people, how beautiful are they? Is there anyone like you? You're still wearing a veil? Bai Cixin, who got out of the car, also seemed to feel that something was wrong. This wasn't the case when she appeared in the past. What was going on? A man and a woman got out of a car behind them. The man was Bai Cixin's younger brother, Bai Qi. He was wearing a black suit and had a delicate face. He looked like a pretty boy and was very handsome. The girl who got out of the car attracted everyone's attention. The girl looked to be in her early 20s. She had jet black hair and a snow-white face. Her clear and beautiful eyes were slightly blue, like pure gems. She had a graceful figure and wore a light red dress. She should have been a pure and beautiful girl, but she gave off a sorrowful aura, making people feel pity for her. Someone in the crowd suddenly recognized the girl. I know who this girl is. One of the wives of the family master exclaimed. The family master shouted in a low voice, lower your voice. It's embarrassing for you to be so surprised. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have brought you out. The wife responded, but she still said, Hubby, didn't the Bai family hold a banquet last month? This girl and her mother were there too. What's so strange about that? Actually, this girl is quite pitiful. I think her mother made Bai Qi a concubine. The family master's expression changed. Why? Is it hard for you to be my concubine? The woman stopped talking. Only she could understand the girl's thoughts. What's the girl's name? The family master asked. I think she's called Dongfang Yu. Surnamed Dongfang? Everyone seemed to have thought of the surname Dongfang. 100 years ago, there were 6 big families in the north, and Dongfang family was one of them. However, Dongfang family was reported by other big families, and the content of the report was that Dongfang family was secretly hiding an ancient godly item. At that time, the emperor of Voidless Realm was Donghuang Baiji's father. He personally investigated this matter, and as expected, an ancient godly item was found. After all, there was a rule that one could only possess one ancient godly item. Secretly hiding an ancient godly item was a heavy crime, because it was suspected of rebelling. However, at that time, Dongfang family cried out that they were being framed. However, rules were rules, and there was no evidence to prove their innocence. Thus, Donghuang Baiji's father revoked the title of Dongfang family, executed all the males, and released all the females. Dongfang Yu's grandmother was the only daughter of the family master at that time. In order to keep the surname Dongfang, all the children followed their mother's surname. Dongfang Yu was the most outstanding one among the younger generation, and thus, she decided to gift her to Bai family. However, all of this was not what Dongfang Yu wanted. However, what else could she do? On the other hand, Bai Qi only accepted Dongfang Yu because he fancied her appearance. Bai Cixin, on the other hand, didn't mind. It doesn't matter if my little brother takes in a concubine, but the main wife must be beneficial to Bai family. Marrying a virtuous woman was a very simple principle. Bai Qi, who was standing behind his big sister, stretched out his hand, wanting to hug Dongfang Yu's waist. However, Dongfang Yu dodged his hand. This made Bai Qi a little angry. She is already prepared to marry into Bai family, yet you are still acting all high and mighty? Not letting me touch this, not letting me touch that, do you really think that you are still the Dongfang family of the past? If you were still the Dongfang family, then I, Bai Qi, would have to kneel and lick your boots. However, the current you can only kneel and lick my boots. You, I have already promised you that I will only make a move on you after you graduate. However, don't force me to be rough, your family's finances are all in my hands. Bai Qi leaned close to Dongfang Yu and shouted out gravely. This kind of threat was fatal to Dongfang Yu. Upon seeing this, Bai Qi stretched out his hand and hugged onto Dongfang Yu's waist, declaring his ownership. Dongfang Yu was indeed captivating, especially the sense of weakness that was emitted from her bones. It made men feel a strong sense of conquest. Put on a smile, don't be so lifeless. Bai Qi said. Chapter 316. Although everyone at the scene expressed their pity, this was, after all, someone else's Bai family's matter, and they couldn't interfere in it. Wife, that Qinya came as well. Wang Debao said softly. Bai Cixin looked towards the front, and her eyebrows slightly wrinkled. She felt that this Qinya had changed a lot. This Qinya is very beautiful. No wonder everyone had such a reaction when I appeared. In terms of appearance, I am indeed no match for Qinya. Debao, go up and greet her. Bai Cixin said. Logically speaking, Bai Cixin should be feeling jealous. This was the normal rhythm. However, Bai Cixin wasn't an ordinary woman. If not, she wouldn't be able to lead Bai family to this point. It could only be said that Bai Cixin was a very shrewd woman. Although Wang Debao was puzzled, he still listened to his wife's words. That bar owner had always been a mystery, or rather, an enigmatic man. Even his wife had to worry about this point. That's why smart women would do the right thing. Shunan was like this, and Bai Cixin was also like this. This also meant that their sixth sense was correct. There were some people that they really couldn't afford to offend. When everyone saw Bai Cixin walking towards Qin Ye's direction with her man and little brother, they immediately gasped. Why are all the big shots greeting that woman? Just who is this woman's man? This man didn't even come to the scene, and yet, he is already in the limelight. Qin Ye didn't recognize Bai Cixin, who was wearing a veil, and she was only a bit curious. People in the cultivation world sure are weird. Mommy Qin, why is this auntie wearing a veil? Is it because she can't see others? Dong Huangli asked curiously. Qin Ye smiled slightly. Ali, there are many reasons for wearing a veil, you can't just casually guess. Oh, Ali understands. Dong Huangli nodded her head and stopped guessing. If not, she would seem very rude and lose face for her daddy. Bai Cixin could be seen walking in front of Qin Ye and said gently, I have long heard of CEO Qing's great name. Seeing you today, you are indeed very beautiful. After finished speaking, Bai Cixin stretched out her hand. Qin Ye felt a bit awkward. She knows me, but I don't know her, what should I say? If Bai Cixin wasn't wearing a veil, Qin Ye might be able to recognize her. After all, Bai Cixin was also a philanthropist, and Qin Ye had met her once when she attended the banquet. Song Huang said softly, CEO Qin, this is Bai Cixin from Bai family. However, after Song Huang finished speaking, he went into a daze for a moment. Why did I call him CEO Qin as well? His mind was in a mess. He was a saint doctor. Don't forget his identity. Only then did Qin Ye remember about it, and with a slight smile, she said, CEO Bai is being too polite, I don't dare to accept it. As he spoke, he prepared to shake hands with Bai Cixin. Mommy Qin, don't, Daddy will be angry, little Ali cried out in alarm. Qin Ye's body stiffened. Luckily, my fingers did not touch the other party, and Qin Yutong, who was at the side, was currently taking pictures of the evidence. What a traitor. However, upon thinking of that Vinegar King, Qin Ye smiled helplessly and said, CEO Bai, I'm really sorry, my husband doesn't like me touching other people, sorry for my rudeness. Bai Cixin chuckled. President Qin is so beautiful. If I were a man, would do the same. As expected of the Bai family's patriarch. He could even resolve such an awkward atmosphere. Everyone was impressed. But at the same time, he felt that it was inconceivable. Because the child said that Papa would be angry. How could such a beautiful woman be angry? This was simply intolerable. Could it be domestic violence? Call the police. Let the beautiful woman be released. Wang Debao was also impressed by his wife. Under such a situation, she was still able to welcome people with a smile. If it was me, I might not be able to hold back from ridiculing her. However, Bai Qi, who was at the back, felt that his sister was being too cautious. This was a great disrespect towards Bai family. Even if Bai Qi was beautiful, he still couldn't tolerate it. Of course, Bai Cixin had her own thoughts. Since her beauty was inferior to the other parties, she had to win in another aspect. However, her magnanimity won everyone's praise, but the other party was different. It would be very rude. However, using Yihua's words, there was no need for my woman to be polite towards a group of salted fishes. After hearing what Yihua said, Qin Ye smiled sweetly. Immediately, all of the men became distracted. This smile was too beautiful, it was suffocating. My husband is a Vinegar King, he wishes that I could be chained to his side 24/7. Qin Ye's smile looked very blissful. Everyone was able to feel that, to have a woman like this, how many people did you have to help to cross the road in your previous life? Qin Yutong laughed. Big sister actually became a crazy demon showing off her husband. Incredible, I am also going to become a crazy demon showing off my brother-in-law. That's because daddy loves mommy Qin, Dong Huangli said. Here comes another crazy demon showing off her father. This family is incredible. Qin Ye pinched onto Dong Huangli's little nose, daddy loves you too. Of course. This was a big family showing off their affection, and all of the single dogs that were present were unable to take it anymore. Dongfang Yuan, who was standing beside Bai Qi, looked at Qinya blankly. In her heart, she was very envious of this woman. Song Huang, who was standing at the side, was very depressed. Thinking back then, when I appeared, how many people would come over to greet me and fawn over me. This year, everything has completely changed. I have truly shot myself in the foot. The gains do not make up for the losses. CEO Xiao, long time no see. Bai Cixin shouted out towards Xiao Yi, but she didn't have any intention of stretching out her hand to greet Xiao Yi. CEO Bai, long time no see. Xiao Yi replied politely. Right now, Xiao Yi no longer had any thoughts towards Bai family. After all, the black gown had already given the order that he wouldn't participate in the aristocratic family selection. Since that was the case, he didn't have any thoughts of going against Bai family. Qinya noticed Dongfang Yuan, who was standing beside Bai Qi, and was very curious. This woman who was standing weakly at the side seemed very out of place. From Qinya's point of view, this kind of girl actually shouldn't appear here. After all, this was a place where people would eat people up without spitting out their bones. This is? Qinya asked curiously. Wang Debao smiled and said, this is my brother-in-law's girlfriend. Dongfang Yuan seemed to be very afraid. Her delicate hands tightly grabbed onto her small handbag and didn't dare to look straight at Qinya's gaze. She lowered her head and her delicate body was slightly trembling. CEO Qin, sorry, this girl hasn't seen much of the world. I have let you see a joke. Wang Debao said apologetically while sighing in his heart. This brother-in-law of mine really wants to bring someone else out today. I am really speechless. Qinya didn't mind and comforted Dongfang Yuan. It's all right, I am still studying at this age. CEO Qin, she is indeed studying at university right now. After she graduates, she will marry into my Bai family. Wang Debao followed his wife's wishes and got familiar with Qinya. Oh. Which university is she studying at? Qinya asked. Bai Qi pulled on to Dongfang Yuan, who was beside him, and said in a low voice, CEO Qin is asking you a question, don't be a mute. Hearing what Bai Qi said, Qinya couldn't help but slightly frown, but she didn't say anything. CEO Qin, I am studying at Zijin University. Dongfang Yuan lowered her head and said while trembling with fear, just like a frightened rabbit. Right now, Bai Qi also regretted bringing her out. She didn't even give me any face at all. Every single sentence she says is filled with death, and she even lowered her head. Doesn't she know that this is very rude? If not for there being a lot of people here, I would have given her a slap. Chapter 317. Senior sister. Dongfang Yuer slowly raised her head. This word sounds very approachable, which allowed Dongfang Yuer to find a trace of warmth in this unfamiliar place. Hello, senior sister. Hello, junior sister. Dongfang Yuer finally revealed out a trace of a smile. This kind of gathering still has a trace of warmth. This big sister is a good person. Although it was just a small conversation, in everyone's hearts, they didn't think so. It was as if Dongfang Yuer had found a huge backer. After all, everyone present was a smart person. For this beauty to say such words, there definitely must be some other meaning behind it. It seemed like she was telling Bai family to treat this girl a bit better. Indeed, Qinya saw that Bai Qi didn't treat this girl well. Perhaps it was out of pity for this girl. Qinya said a few more words to help this helpless junior martial sister. After all, marrying into a rich and powerful family was as deep as the sea. Bai Cixin also understood what Qinya meant, and said to her brother, Bai Qi, treat Yuer well in the future, understand? I understand, big sister. Bai Qi lowered his head and replied. Seeing that her goal was achieved, Qinya smiled and said to Bai Cixin, to have such a delicate girlfriend, your brother is so fortunate. CEO Qing is right, as the big sister, I am also very happy. Bai Cixin smiled and said. Although she expressed sympathy, Qinya didn't have the intention to interfere, she only said a few words. However, to Dongfang Yuer, those few words were already enough, and she silently thanked this senior sister in her heart. CEO Qing, it's getting late, let's go in. Wang Debao felt that it was about time. Tonight's big show is inside, and not outside. Qingya nodded her head, then walked on the stone bridge while holding Dong Huang Li's hand. Qin Yutong will temporarily stop filming here, she will continue filming after they go in. This is so interesting, even brother-in-law missed this show. Song Huang, who was supposed to bring Qing family sisters here, was actually following behind the two sisters. Don't blame me for not giving you face then. After passing through the stone bridge, everyone arrived at Yuan Linglong's main hall. The auction was about to begin, a lot of people were still waiting in the main hall. Various family heads were chatting with each other, and there were all kinds of beauties surrounding them. To put it bluntly, in this kind of banquet, there were basically no ordinary beauties, all of them were first-class beauties. After all, they were the family heads' women. However, when Qin Ye and the others walked in, all the men in the main hall stopped chatting and looked at Qin Yutong and Qin Yutong, ignoring Bai Cixin. These two women are really, really indescribably beautiful. However, the people in the main hall did not know what had just happened outside. If they saw it, they would be even more amazed. At this moment, Chen Xuanzong was among them as well. He was currently building up a good relationship with the family heads. After all, rather than having one more enemy, it was better to have one less. His first glance wasn't on Qinya, but on Xiao Yi, the man who exterminated his entire family. As a devil emperor, Chen Xuanzong really wanted to charge over and slay Xiao Yi on the spot. However, his rationality still prevailed. He couldn't do that right now. By Chen Chen Chen, he E of EU, who of Chen 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 became Petrid. When, he became PPPP Chen Yu of Chen. Of heart of Qing Qing E, became more Yu's beauty, of Fong Fong Yu of. Qinya, since time has returned, I, Chen Xuanzong, will never abandon you again. Li of Qing, Fong Li muttered. Mother of Dong. Of Fong. Dong Huang Li mumbled. In actuality, her eyes were already staring at the dessert at the side, and her saliva was about to flow out. Qinya rubbed onto Dong Huang Li's stomach. You ate so much tonight, you are still hungry? Li's body is still growing, Dong Huang Li said pitifully. Qinya had no choice but to bring Dong Huang Li to eat, then said to everyone, I will bring my child to eat something. Everyone nodded their heads politely, then began to win over the hearts of the people, especially Xiao Yi. A huge change happened to the family, and it was time to greet those people who left the family. Right now, Song Huang was also surrounded by a group of people who were calling him Sage Doctor. He finally found his sense of belonging, otherwise, if he were to stand together with those two women, his limelight would be snatched away. However, if he were to chase after Qin Yutong right now, he wouldn't be able to put down his face. The two sisters came to the side of the dessert. Qin Yutong casually picked up a piece of cake and ate it with Dong Huang Li. From time to time, Qin Yutong would tease little Ali, making Dong Huang Li pout. Qinya. A warm voice rang out. Qinya went into a daze for a moment, then slowly turned around. A tall and handsome man could be seen in front of Qinya, who had a gentle smile on his face. Qin Yutong and Dong Huang Li looked towards the man who suddenly appeared. You are? Qinya asked confusedly. Chen Xuanzong said with a smile, Qinya, don't you remember me? Qinya didn't have a good impression of this kind of man. She said faintly, why should I remember you? Chen Xuanzong felt that this kind of opening was very awkward. However, thinking about it, back then, I was still a fatty, it's normal for me to not remember. In actuality, there were a lot of family heads who wanted to go up and strike up a conversation with Qinya, but Qinya's aura was very strong, and coupled with that mysterious husband of hers, they stopped. However, now that there was a man who was testing the lightning, everyone was still paying attention to him. Qin Yutong still doesn't know about these men? If brother-in-law were to find out about this, wouldn't he break all four of these men's limbs? Hey, are you trying to woo my big sister? Qin Yutong said in a joking manner. As the sister-in-law of brother-in-law, I have to look after my big sister well. Of course, when I want to stir up trouble, I still have to stir up trouble. If not, how can my boring life be interesting? Chen Xuanzong looked towards Qin Yutong and was unable to recognize her. After all, Qin Yutong's appearance was off the charts, but her temper was still the same. Mommy Qin, this uncle looks like a bad person, let's ignore him. Dong Wangli pulled onto the corner of Qin Ya's clothes, and her face was very vigilant. She couldn't wait to call her daddy over right now to beat up this bad person. What Dong Wangli said was right, Chen Xuanzong wasn't a good person. After all, he was a demon emperor, and his hands were stained with blood. However, right now, Chen Xuanzong was very depressed. I haven't even acknowledged him yet, and I am already labeled as a bad person. Qin Ya carried Dong Wangli into her embrace and said coldly, please leave, otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Chen Xuanzong didn't know what to say. I remember that in the past, although Qin Ya was cold and indifferent, she was still gentle. However, right now, she doesn't seem to be like the Qin Ya in the past. No. Just now, this child called me mommy. This is impossible. Chapter 318. Long Outyan must have wanted to do something improper to them and forced them to commit suicide. At that moment, Long Outyan, who was sleeping in his cave, sneezed. If he knew that someone had wronged him, he would definitely seek justice for himself. I didn't even manage to touch a single toe before I was snatched away by that pretentious guy. Qin Ya, she is your child? Grief appeared on Chen Xuanzong's face. This is impossible. How could Qin Ya be with Long Outyan? This is impossible. Qin Ya was very disgusted with the man in front of her. What does it have to do with you whether I am your child or not? If I am Mommy Qing's child, if you dare to bully my Mommy Qing, I will call Daddy over and beat you up. After speaking, Dong Wangli even waved her small fist. Chen Xuanzong frowned. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Seeing that Chen Xuanzong still didn't show any signs of leaving, Qin Yutong snorted and said, Brat, why aren't you leaving yet? You don't know anything about my brother-in-law. If he were to find out about this, you're done for. Qin Ya also persuaded coldly, Mister, I'm warning you for the last time, it's best for you to stay away from me, I don't want my husband to get angry. Chen Xuanzong's face was filled with astonishment, and he couldn't help but take a small step back. Why did things turn out like this? Qin Ya is actually protecting Long Outyan like this. That Long Outyan isn't a good person. He's a womanizer, doesn't attend to his proper duties, and is always on the gossip news. This is definitely a facade, and Qin Ya said it on purpose. That's right, after all, Qin Ya is a kind-hearted person. CEO Qin, is there anything I can help you with? At this moment, Xiao Yi slowly walked over and said respectfully. Looking at Xiao Yi who was just inches away from him, Chen Xuanzong's body trembled slightly. He nearly couldn't help but make his move. No need, CEO Xiao. Qin Ya said faintly. Xiao Yi glanced at Chen Xuanzong. It was a look of warning. Then, he left with Xu Nan. It was Xu Nan who suggested coming over. Chen Xuanzong, what are you doing? Suddenly, a man called out to Chen Xuanzong. Qin Ya went into a daze for a moment. After recalling what her mother had told her, she asked in confusion, You are Chen Xuanzong? Fatty Chen? Qin Yutong thought to herself that the situation was bad. Dong Wangli pouted her small mouth, looking just like an unhappy baby. Looking at Qin Ya's pleasantly surprised expression, Chen Xuanzong's disappointment disappeared. He knew that this was just a facade. It's me, the fatty from back then. As he spoke, Chen Xuanzong stretched his cheeks wide to prove that he was a fatty in the past. Qin Ya was also rather surprised. Fatty, I didn't expect to see you here. It has been almost 10 years since we last met, you have lost a lot of weight, and you have also become more handsome. You flatter me. In the past, I was just fat. Qin Xuanzong said embarrassedly. He was in a great mood. Yutong, what's wrong? Do you really not recognize me anymore? Qin Xuanzong smiled at Qin Yutong. Qin Yutong pouted her mouth. Disappeared for so many years, where did you go to fool around? First, I have to ruin this person's impression in my sister's heart. Then, my sister won't remember our old relationship. In actuality, Qin Yutong was thinking too much. Right now, Qinya was only having the attitude of an old friend, and would not betray Yihua. In Qinya's heart, Yihua had long been irreplaceable, no matter what happens. My family underwent a huge change. Back then, I didn't even have the time to greet them before I left. I've been abroad for the past few years. I've only returned recently. Qin Xuanzong explained. Qinya silently thought back to that year. It was fortunate that you went overseas, if not, I definitely wouldn't have been able to see Yihua. If Qin Xuanzong knew what Qinya was thinking, would he feel despair? How have you been recently? Qin Xuanzong asked with a gentle voice. That warm greeting was something that everyone could understand. Without waiting for Qinya to reply, Dong Huangli snorted, my daddy and mommy are very good. If you still don't leave, Ali will get angry, and if Ali gets angry, the consequences will be very serious. Ali is serious. Qinya knew that her child was speaking up for her father, thus she said tenderly, Ali, this is mommy's old friend, don't be angry. Ali doesn't like it. Wu Dong Huangli hugged onto Qinya and acted coquettishly. Qin Yutong, who was behind Dong Huangli, gave Ali a thumbs up, and little Ali blinked her big eyes. The two of them cooperated very well. Qin Xuanzong wanted to confirm this matter and asked gravely, Qinya, is she really your child? Qinya liked Dong Huangli very much, and even more so, Qinya treated Dong Huangli as her own daughter. Yes. Looking at Qinya's blissful smile, Qin Xuanzong felt as if he was struck by lightning. How could Qinya and Long Outyan live together happily? They even had a child. Qin Yutong even spoke up for Long Outyan. After a long while, Qin Xuanzong said, Qinya, is he good to you? Dong Huangli began answering, of course daddy is good to mommy, after all, there is a baby in mommy's stomach. A second child. She even gave birth to a second child. As a demon emperor, Qin Xuanzong felt a bit despair. Mommy said before, after I give birth to a little brother, I want to give daddy another baby. Dong Huangli added, causing Qinya to feel a bit embarrassed. Give birth to another baby. This sentence was like a thunder exploding within Qin Xuanzong's mind. This Long Outyan definitely threatened Qinya, if not, Qinya wouldn't be acting like this. Qinya, he is a swindler. Qin Xuanzong advised. Don't be fooled by Long Outyan's sweet words. Qinya wrinkled her brows. If not for the fact that they were old friends, she would have already flipped out. Qinya said faintly, Fatty, he is my husband. Even if he lied to me, I am willing to do so. But, Fatty, don't say any more, otherwise, we can't even be friends anymore. Qinya shouted out coldly. This had already touched Qinya's bottom line. Qin Yutong, who was at the side, secretly took a photo and sent her big sister's attitude to brother-in-law. This way, brother-in-law shouldn't be worried anymore. Qinya, do you like him that much? Actually, Dong Huangli couldn't take it anymore and said, Uncle, don't think that Ali's temper is good, my mommy only loves daddy. Originally, Qinya still wanted to reminisce about the past with her old friend, but when she discovered that Qin Xuanzong wasn't the fatty from back then, she didn't have the mood to continue chatting. Ali, let's go over there and eat French fries, okay? Dong Huangli agreed happily. But Ali, you have to eat less, if not, you will have a stomachache. Qinya revealed a gentle smile, causing Dong Huangli to kiss Qinya. Mommy is beautiful, Mommy Qing is also beautiful. Li feels that she is too blessed. While carrying Dong Huangli, Qinya walked to the other side. Everyone at the scene couldn't help but open up a path for Qinya. Perhaps, even they themselves didn't know why they had to open up a path, but they felt that they had to open up a path. This point alone was sufficient to prove that Qin Ye's aura was becoming stronger and stronger. Qin Yutong patted onto Qin Xuanzong's shoulder, then said earnestly, "Fatty, some things are already in the past, you don't have to keep it in your heart anymore." "But, I can't let it go," Qin Xuanzong said with red eyes. Qin Yutong persuaded Qin Xuanzong one last time, "Right now, you are already half a step into the abyss. It is still not too late for you to go back. If not, you will definitely die without an intact corpse. I am not joking with you, my brother-in-law's strength is something that you will never be able to imagine." After finished speaking, Qin Yutong turned around and followed after her big sister's footsteps. Chapter 319. Looking at Dong Huangli, who was eating fries, Qin Ye said tenderly, "Ollie, you can't eat too much." Li understands. Qin Yutong said quietly to her big sister, "Big sister, it seems like this Qin Xuanzong is preparing to pursue you." "Alright, don't say any more. If your brother-in-law were to find out, he would definitely get mad." Qin Ye knew Yi Hua's personality very well. Although this Qin Xuanzong was disrespectful towards her, they were still friends. Even if she didn't give him face, she still had to give him face. "But I have already sent it over," Qin Yutong said pitifully as she waved her phone. Dong Huangli said exaggeratedly, "Daddy is going to get mad." Qin Ye pinched onto her little sister's ear, "You traitor. Big sister, be gentle, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts." Just as they were fooling around, two people walked in from the entrance. One was a robust middle-aged man, and the other was a man with a graceful bearing. The middle-aged man had a square face and sideburns. There was a scar on his cheek that looked very sinister, like a wriggling centipede. It was precisely because of this appearance that people naturally feared him. The man at the side was much more delicate and handsome. He was waving a folding fan in his hand and dressed up like an ancient romantic scholar, attracting the attention of the unmarried women present. When everyone saw these two people, they went into a daze for a moment. Some people didn't recognize them, but some people recognized them. Those who recognized them cupped their hands and shouted, "Chu family head." At this moment, some people started discussing. "Hey, is there a need to be so respectful towards a family head? Lower your voice. This is one of the 5 aristocratic families, Chu family." "Ah. Chu family." Everyone hurriedly cupped their hands and greeted respectfully. Even Xiao Yi and Bai Cixin cupped their hands and greeted respectfully. After all, this was etiquette. Of course, there were still some people who didn't do it. For example, Gue Qingren was sitting at the side eating sunflower seeds and reading novels. Qin Yutong was even more so. What does an aristocratic family count as? Even big shots have to follow brother-in-law's orders. Bai Qi bowed his body and took a look at Dongfang Yuan, who was at the side, then shouted out, "Dongfang Yuan, do you still want me to teach you how to bend your waist?" In actuality, Dongfang Yuan had already learned from others, but Bai Qi was just nitpicking and intentionally making things difficult for Dongfang Yuan. Bai Qi just wanted to vent his anger, who asked her to make him lose face just now. As the two of them walked over, all the clan leaders tried to curry favor with them. It wasn't easy for an aristocratic family to appear here, so they had to have a good chat with them. "Father, I'll go eat something." As Chu He's eldest son, Chu Bai enjoyed a halo that others couldn't obtain. Did Chu He not know his son's intentions? Since he was here today to hunt for beauties, he just let him be. Perhaps others didn't know, but Chu Bai had a fetish. Others liked virgins, but he liked married women. Other than the main wife, all the concubines were like this. However, Chu Bai didn't snatch it by force. Instead, he stepped in and slowly obtained it. He enjoyed that thrill very much. You don't understand the world of powerful people. They seek excitement. Chu Bai waved his fan and walked around the hall, sweeping his gaze across the group of women. He didn't care about the average ones anymore. Recently, he had been infatuated with the high and mighty women, and conquering them gave him a sense of accomplishment. As for those little girls, He was really not interested. How could he be as interesting as someone else's wife? Pervert. Mommy Ching, Ollie can't eat anymore. Dong Wangli rubbed onto her plump belly and said pitifully. She seemed to be a bit unwilling to not finish eating all of these. Chinya took out a napkin and carefully wiped Dong Wangli's mouth. If you can't eat anymore, then don't eat anymore. But Ali recently learned a poem. Dong Wangli began to show off. Chinya and Qin Yutong were very curious as well. What poem? Hoeing rice at noon. Dong Wangli said. What was the next sentence? I forgot. This is so embarrassing. Ali has lost face for daddy. I originally wanted to flaunt my culture a bit. Seeing how Ali was stuttering, Chinya and Qin Yutong couldn't help but laugh. Dong Wangli pouted her small mouth. Next time, I will come and show off after I finish reciting the poem. Sweat drips into the soil. Who would know that every grain of rice on the plate is bitter? Chu Bai could be seen lightly waving his fan and speaking leisurely. That confident smile of his seemed to be saying that what I said was correct, right? Dong Wangli became unhappy. I was supposed to show off to you. Uncle is so amazing, you actually know how to recite children's poems. Dong Wangli shouted out. She wanted to let everyone know that this uncle of hers was reciting children's songs at home. Chu Bai paused for a moment. What a sharp little kid, so eloquent. However, my target is not you, but the two women beside you. In order to prove that he was talented, Chu Bai coughed lightly and said in a low voice, others laugh at me for being too crazy. Dong Wangli was very unhappy. Since you're destroying Ali's stage, Ali is going to destroy your stage. Dong Wangli could be heard saying with a childish voice, I'm laughing at him for saying that he is right. Puff. Chu Bai almost choked on his own saliva. Chinya and Qin Yutong laughed so much that they were about to cramp up. When did Ali become so mischievous? Didn't he learn it from his father? Everyone in the surroundings heard what Dong Wangli said. Originally, I thought that Dong Wangli is just a bronze king, but it turns out that Dong Wangli is actually a king. However, he didn't dare to laugh out loud. After all, he was the son of an aristocratic family. However, he still couldn't help but cover his mouth and laugh lightly. Chu Bai felt very awkward, but he still had to maintain his poise. He could not lose face in front of a beauty, or else this first impression would be gone. However, if he wanted to woo these two women, he had to start with the children. Little friend, you are very awesome. Chu Bai smiled and praised. Dong Wangli snorted, of course, Ali is very formidable. Ali, do you want to play with Uncle again? Don't think that Chu Bai was really playing with the children. This was a form of interaction. He wanted the two beauties to lower their guard so that he could take advantage of the situation. Dong Wangli was Yihua's child. When had she ever been a coward? Alright, Ali will let Uncle start the conversation. Dong Wangli braced herself and said. Even if Chinya wanted to persuade the child, it was already too late. Chinya could only watch the child perform. Qin Yutong immediately captured the moment when Ali was acting cool. The crowd was attracted over as well. A battle between a junior king and a descendant of an aristocratic family. This was going to be interesting. Chu Bai thought for a moment. He couldn't make it too difficult, or others would think that he was bullying a child. Whoosh. Chu Bai opened his folding fan and said in a graceful manner, everyone has died since ancient times. Everyone was in an uproar. This was too difficult for children. The moonlight in front of the bed was more or less the same. Chinya also felt that this was a difficult situation. Dong Wangli was very puzzled. Since ancient times, who doesn't have sh*t? How could there be such a poem? How strange. However, if I am unable to continue the conversation, while losing face for Ali is a small matter, losing face for my daddy is a big matter. When everyone saw that Ali was frowning and seemed to be thinking, they couldn't help but become worried. This Chu Bai is too shameless, he is still acting so complacent over there. Dong Wang Li's big eyes could be seen shining as she stood on the chair and shouted out, "Thou shalt not use paper when shitting." At this moment, everyone became quiet as they looked dumbfoundedly at the little fellow who was standing on the chair. The little fellow had heard the word sh*t, and then improvised a line. It was right, and it rhymed. Chapter 320. They wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. Qin Ye and Qin Yutong also didn't expect that Ali would actually be able to say such a sentence, and after being dumbfounded for a moment, they couldn't help but laugh tenderly. It was clear that Ali didn't know, but she still answered based on what she knew. Moreover, she even scolded Zhao Fu. It seemed that Ali was quite vengeful. Chu Bai felt as if he had eaten sh*t. He had actually been looked down upon by a little kid. Although his answer was wrong, it was still another kind of sublimation. He had to say it, and he had to say it in another way. Little fellow, this young master's talent is not something you can understand. Looking at the strange look on Chu Bai's face, the crowd could not help but sigh as they felt that the son of an aristocratic family had not given up and was going to continue fighting with the kid. If he won, he would be bullying the weak. If he lost, he wouldn't even be able to win against a child. He wouldn't be able to please either side and would be digging his own grave. Right now, Chu Bai was already in a difficult position, unless Dong Huangli took the initiative to step aside. However, that was impossible. After a while, Chu Bai's eyes lit up. He waved his folding fan and slowly said, "If you don't have toilet paper." Damn. This son of an aristocratic family really dared to come. Everyone couldn't help but look at the little fellow. If it was a match, it would definitely be the highlight of today's auction. The little fellow had used a poem to slap the son of an aristocratic family. It was too interesting. Dong Huangli raised her head and looked towards Mama Qing and Aunt Qing. Qin Ye and Qin Yutong had a helpless look on their faces. It wasn't that Mommy Qing didn't want to help Ali, it was that Mommy Qing didn't know how to answer Ali's question. Seeing that even Dong Huangli had asked for help, everyone felt that even though they were defeated, it was still an honor. As for Chu Bai, he was a little smug. How was it possible for a little brat to defeat him? From the looks of it, Dong Huangli had indeed angered Chu Bai, causing Chu Bai to forget about his original mission. His mission wasn't to spar with a child, but rather, to strike up a conversation with a beauty. Dong Huangli pouted her mouth and looked at Chu Bai unwillingly. "Calm down, don't be reckless, Ali will definitely think of something." After a while, everyone felt that Ali couldn't match it, so Xiao Xiao didn't say anything. "Little guy, what else can you say?" Chu Bai smiled. Qin Ye and Qin Yutong inwardly scolded him for being shameless. Bullying little children, Ali quickly beat him up. Dong Huangli could be seen snorting coldly, then said, "If that's the case, Ali, you will have to use your fingers." At this moment, the air froze. "If you don't have toilet paper, you can only use your fingers." Ha 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 ha. The whole audience immediately burst into laughter. This little guy was amazing, too amazing. They matched each other neatly, rhyming perfectly, and the ending notes connected pleasantly. Hi. Little prodigy. She even reached the point of scolding people without using dirty words. Qin Yutong, who was filming the video for Ali, was a bit stupefied, and Qin Ye was even more so. This little fellow is truly becoming more and more fond of Ali. Qin Ye and Qin Yutong could be seen giving Ali a sweet and fragrant kiss, causing everyone to feel extremely envious, and they all wished that they could become little fellows. Dong Huangli even raised up her chin. "Quickly come and praise Ali. Ali will accept your praise." However, Chu Bai put away his folding fan. He was so angry that his lips were trembling. He couldn't tolerate it. He had been sliced by a little kid. He had to think of a way to regain his face. Use his status to pressure me? Too low level. No. He still had to use culture to crush the other party and let the children know that he, the son of an aristocratic family, was not to be trifled with. "Little friend, you're amazing. Why don't we try something a little more difficult? When Chu Bai said this, everyone felt that he was shameless. He wanted to increase the difficulty. The previous one was already difficult enough, but the little fellow had thought for so long. Qing Ye's expression sunk. I will let Ollie play with Ollie, but if others bully Ollie like this, I, as his mother, will not allow it. Qing Yutong is the same as well. If you want to bully my Ollie, you have to ask me, and Qing. System, give me a big sword. As the child of a supreme overlord, Dong Huang Li's bloodline carried the gene of never admitting defeat. Towards other people's challenges, Dong Huang Li would not cower, and would only bravely advance forward. Mommy Qing, Aunt Qing, let Ollie do it. Dong Huang Li put on the appearance of a little adult, which made people feel that Dong Huang Li was very cute. Qing Ye and Qing Yutong took a look at each other. After thinking for a bit, they decided to let Ollie give it a try. Who knows, Ollie might even be able to give them a pleasant surprise. If this man dares to take a yard after taking an inch, Qing Ye will definitely not let him off. Dong Huang Li could be seen saying to Chu Bai, Uncle, this kind of competition is too dull. Do you want to give it a little something? Something? Qing Ye and Qing Yutong went into a daze. When did Ollie learn such words? Needless to say, it must be her father who taught her. Qing Ye decided that this time, when she goes back, she will have a good talk with Yi Hua. You don't have to interfere with the education of Ollie anymore. Look at what you have taught Ollie to become, to actually dare to make a bet with other people. Ollie is only 3 years old. When he grows up, wouldn't he be gambling with other people? The surrounding people were clearly stunned by Dong Huang Li's attitude. This little fellow is awesome. This was the first time he had seen a child angrily rebuking the son of an aristocratic family. Chu Bai was very confident. With a swoosh, he opened his folding fan again. Ollie, whatever you want to bet, Uncle will bet with you. Alright, if Uncle loses, you have to recognize Ollie as your big brother. Ollie will teach you how to comb your hair in the middle. Puff, everyone present burst into laughter. If you recognize me as your big brother, I'll teach you how to comb your hair in the middle. This kid also watches TikTok. Qing Ye let out a sigh. After this incident, I will definitely uninstall all of my TikTok from my phone. I can't let Ollie watch TikTok anymore. However, this time, Qing Ye had wrongly blamed TikTok. Ollie had learned TikTok from Lai Gu. Alright. If Ollie loses, you have to be my little brother. Chu Bai wasn't greedy. It didn't matter if he accepted a child as his underling. The important thing was that he would be able to come into contact with two great beauties. Alright. It's a deal, pinky promise. Dong Huang Li stretched out her pinky. Chu Bai really walked over and hooked it. He even stamped it. Chu Bai. What are you doing? He suddenly walked out from the crowd. Beside him was actually the Yi family's patriarch, Yi Shao. He had just walked over to discuss some matters with Yi Shao, but when he came out, he saw everyone crowding over here. Sure enough, it was his son again. Chu Bai looked at his father without a hint of fear. Father, you don't have to worry about this. What's there that I don't need to care about? He was confused. A family head beside him recounted the situation. He felt embarrassed when he heard that. His eldest son liked to make himself look like a scholar. Apart from that hobby, he always claimed to be a cultured person and was different from them. You don't even have half a cart full of knowledge with the amount of knowledge in your stomach. Do you think I don't know? The main target is even a little kid, and if I lose, I still have to recognize the little kid as my big brother. You may be shameless, but your father is. Old Chu, this little Bai is just playing around. Yi Shao said with a smile. Play. If that's the case, you are looking down on Dong Huang Li too much. Uncle, if your son loses, he wants to recognize me as his big brother. Are you okay with that? If Dong Huang Li doesn't even have this bit of foresight, then she would be letting down the power of her bloodline. When Dong Huang Li said that, everyone froze. That's the boss of an aristocratic family. A person who can decide a person's life and death with just a single sentence. Chapter 321. I didn't expect that Ali would have such a talent. From the looks of it, in the future, the three of us can form a team and go out to do big things. As an aristocratic family, if we make things difficult for a child in this kind of situation, we will lose a lot of face. Little friend, that uncle is just joking with you, don't take it seriously. Chew, he squeezed out a trace of a smile. Bastard son, coming to trouble me at this time. I took it seriously. Dong Huangli said while pouting her mouth. I took it seriously too. Chu Bai responded. I am a talented young master, how can I possibly lose? Yi Xiao laughed lightly. Old Chu, your son's bearing is extraordinary. Chu, he wished that he could beat this fellow to death. If I had known that this would happen, I wouldn't have brought him out today. Chu Bai, you're on your own. After finished speaking, Chu he left angrily. Yi Xiao took a look at Qinya, then turned around and left. Not every man likes beautiful women, perhaps, they just admire beautiful women. Seeing that his father had left, Chu Bai laughed lightly. All right, no one can disturb us now. Uncle, your father is angry, can you make the decision? Dong Huangli asked curiously. This question of yours is so awkward. Chu Bai knocked on his chest with his folding fan, then said with his mouth slightly raised, Uncle's life is my own decision. Then, Ali can be at ease. Everyone became speechless. Why do we have a strange feeling? This little fellow has already dug a pit, and the son of an aristocratic family is currently digging a pit. These people guessed correctly, Dong Huangli has indeed dug a pit. As the representative of the buried love family, Dong Huangli has already started taking in subordinates. And when Yi Hua was Ali's age, who knows where he was playing with mud. The student has surpassed the master. Using Dong Huangli's words, Daddy has so many subordinates, Ali has to make preparations as well. Dong Huangli could be seen smiling confidently. This smile made Chu Bai feel quite pressured. Where does this little brat's confidence come from? Dong Huangli is not fighting alone. Because there is a think tank behind her. Dong Huangli shouted out silently in her heart, Uncle Wei, are you ready? Ali is about to compete. If I lose, I will have to become someone else's subordinate. Far away, in a rented house in Longan City, Wei Chang received a message from Little Honorable. Little Honorable, Uncle Wei is ready. The small living room was filled with people. Lai Gu brought along Iran, Wen Xia, and Bai Xiaozhen, a family of 4. Absolute heaven had rushed over from Zijin University. There was also Death Mage and Sun Fang. The Green and Red brothers died, and of course, Zi Shan also died. Of course, there was also Wei Chang and Tang Wei, only Yi Zizi wasn't present. The pitiful Yi Zizi didn't have anyone to play with her anymore. All of these people were helping Dong Huangli to answer the question. Thus, Chu Bai didn't know what kind of group he was facing at all. In actuality, Dong Huangli was the one who said the first sentence. However, from the moment when she said that everyone would die, it wasn't the one who said it. This matter was too difficult for Dong Huangli, who was not even 3 years old yet. At that time, Dong Huangli was also very anxious, and she was not allowed to ask for help at the scene. Thus, Dong Huangli, who was very anxious, started asking for help in her heart, hoping that the heavens would take pity on Dong Huangli and quickly let Dong Huangli think of something. Although the heavens didn't appear, Wei Chang was able to sense Dong Huangli's cry for help. This was also one of Wei Chang's little thoughts. He was worried that Little Honorable would get hurt, so he specially created a secret technique. As long as Little Honorable asks for help in her heart, he would be able to receive it and immediately go and rescue her. Don't look at how young my daughter is. If she were to really get into a fight, that bunch of deviant flames of hers would be able to make the enemy blush with shame. Wei Chang, who was just about to sleep, sensed it and hurriedly asked about the situation. Immediately, he let out a breath of relief. However, the question that came next caused Wei Chang to have a headache. If it was an ordinary poem, Tang Wei, who was a university student beside him, would definitely know about it. However, Little Honorable's request was not ordinary, and this caused Tang Wei to be stumped. Wei Chang had no choice but to immediately gather everyone. Furthermore, it could be described as extremely urgent. At this time, everyone was more or less preparing to sleep. Even Death Mage was wearing a nightgown. Lai Gu and Absolute Heaven were also wearing a nightcap, as expected of the saying, strength comes from having more people. The first person was Lai Gu's wife, Ran, and the second person was the previous Cloud sect master, Sun Fang. This was also the reason why Dong Huangli had to think for a very long time when she was answering the question, because she was waiting for the answer. Right now, everyone's brows were tightly wrinkled as they prepared to answer the next question. The foolish Chu Bai still didn't know that the little fellow on the other side was secretly cheating, and that there was even a world-destroying team helping him from behind. Don't look down on Dong Huangli, you will never know just how powerful the little fellow's background is. Chu Bai's brows were solemn. This time, I won't go easy on Dong Huangli. Opening up his folding fan, Chu Bai said with a smile, "What is there to be happy when we part?" Everyone was shouting out that Dong Huangli was shameless. I can't even follow up with this kind of poem, and I still have to count on a little kid? Chu He, who was standing not far away, shook his head. This is truly throwing away Chu family's face, to actually be so serious towards a little kid. Qin Ye and Qin Yutong had unhappy expressions on their faces as well. This is what a scumbag is. Dong Huangli muttered to herself, seemingly to be pondering, but in actuality, she was telling Wei Chang the question. After receiving Little Honorable's question, Wei Chang stood up and shouted out towards everyone, "What is there to be happy when we part?" Next sentence. It has to be different from the rest. Lai Gu rubbed onto his temples with both of his hands, feeling that his IQ was not online. Zhu Tian had a calm expression on his face, but his eyes were filled with confusion. Recently, Zhu Tian had started working at Zijin University as a hypnosis professor. Meanwhile, Zhu Tian himself was also studying some culture, and recently, he had been memorizing 300 nursery rhymes. He had yet to come into contact with such a profound poem. Green and Red Brothers? Spring Sleep Without Knowing Dawn is still able to do it twice, but the rest of its IQ is not enough. Death Mage? It is still able to do some fishing and gambling. A large group of men who are capable of destroying the world can only rely on his wives. After all, Yihua's subordinates' culture is not enough, and these women's knowledge is still not enough. Sun Fang, do you have an answer? Wei Chang asked hurriedly. Just now, Sun Fang had answered one question, and Little Honorable was extremely satisfied. Sun Fang wrinkled her brows as her brain spun frantically. How can I be different from everyone else? The three celebrities were also thinking anxiously. After waiting for 1 minute, there was still no answer. This caused Wei Chang to become anxious. At the scene, Chu Bai revealed out a confident smile as he waved his folding fan and said, "Ali, after thinking for so long, do you have an answer?" Dong Huangli pressed onto her lips and snorted, Don't look down on Ali, wait a moment. Uncle Wei, hurry up, Ali is going to lose. If I lose, I will lose Daddy's face, Daddy will fly into a rage." Wei Chang's head was about to explode. If his honor were to find out about this matter, even Little Honorable would not be able to protect his honor. If his honor were to really fly into a rage, everyone would definitely be scolded. I got it. Tang Wei's beautiful eyes shone. Wei Chang became happy. Tang Wei smiled faintly, "What is there to be happy when we part?" I know Pegasus Meteor Fist. Chapter 322. Very quickly, Dong Huangli received Wei Chang's answer. Cheating little king. Little Ali, it's been 2 minutes. If you still can't answer, it'll be your loss. Chu Bai felt carefree and relaxed. He had finally regained his face. This youth had been immersed in poetry for dozens of years. From children's songs to poetry, he was proficient in everything. Reading makes me grow up, reading makes me happy, no one can stop this young master's love for knowledge. Qingye and Qin Yutong were also very worried. I really want to blast that narcissist into smithereens for bullying my Li. Dong Huangli pursed her small mouth, then clenched her small fists and made a boxing pose. I know Pegasus Meteor Fist. Chu Bai was startled, and muttered a few words in his mouth, and his expression immediately sunk. The audience also exclaimed in surprise. Although it wasn't completely correct, it was still another way of saying it. It seemed normal for children who were only a few years old. Which child didn't watch cartoons? Dong Huangli enjoyed this moment very much. Uncle Wei is truly the best. Qingye and Qin Yutong let out a sigh of relief. Qingye and Qin Yutong both heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Bai furrowed his brows. He couldn't recite poems anymore. He had to increase the difficulty. If I say you can do it, then you can do it. Chu Bai said in a deep voice, using his ultimate move. Everyone had a look of disdain on their faces. To actually play a couplet, shameless to a whole new realm. Meanwhile, Dong Huangli had a confused look on her face. This doesn't seem to be a poem, this bad uncle is bullying a child, shameless. Qingye also said casually, shameless. Qin Yutong directly said to Chu Bai, too shameless. Chu Bai waved his folding fan and said, in poetry, there is no distinction between big and small, only between the depth of one's learning. Being shameless to a certain level was indeed invincible. At this moment, Wei Chang received the question and told everyone about it. After everyone heard it, they were all silent. This was very difficult. Lai Gu silently turned around, seemingly telling everyone, don't ask me about this, I'm good at explaining all kinds of positions on the bed. Absolute Heaven pulled down his nightcap. He couldn't even answer a poem, let alone this couplet. His brain had been defeated. The Green and Red brothers felt ashamed that they couldn't help Ollie at all. Wei Chang could only place his hopes on the ladies. After all, the men were responsible for destroying the world, while the women were responsible for washing and cooking. Zi Shan could be seen sitting quietly at the side. She didn't seem to be very sociable, and she didn't say anything either. Just that, Yihua felt that this group of people was very strange. They are obviously so strong, yet, they are actually living quietly, especially that person called Lai Gu and Zhu Tian. Wearing a nightgown, how could he possibly look like an expert? And that Zhu Tian is still wearing a nightcap, and there seems to be an eye patch in his pocket. My God, this was simply a group of devils with Chinibyu syndrome. Yi Hong quietly approached Zi Shan and asked softly, Zi Shan, do you have an answer? After Zi Shan heard that, she let out a sigh of relief. Zi Shan was a deity who had lived for 1,000 years, and she had also learned some zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. He nodded slowly. Yi Hong was delighted. If you say no, then I won't. Even if I can, I won't. Everyone looked towards Zi Shan in unison. As expected of a deity, she did it neatly and neatly. Yi Hong was very happy to be able to help Ali. She smiled at Zi Shan and said, thank you. No need. Zi Shan said calmly. If it wasn't for Yi Hong's request, I wouldn't have helped them. Lai Gu and Zhu Tian looked towards Zi Shan. It has been so many days, and Zi Shan still hasn't put down the airs of a deity. It seems like his honor is going to be disappointed. In actuality, Zhu Tian understood his honor's intention. To Zi Shan, his honor was thinking of testing her, to see if she could change the way of thinking of a deity. As for how his honor would be able to change the way of thinking of a deity, that would depend on little brother Red. Wei Chang hurriedly passed the answer to Dong Huangli. After hearing that, Dong Huangli smiled and placed both of her hands behind her back, looking like she was very knowledgeable. This gave Chu Bai a bad premonition. Could it be that she can even come up with such a couplet? Is she still a child? If you say no, then no. If you say yes, then no. Looking at Dong Huangli's petite figure, everyone couldn't help but admire her. A trace of cold sweat flowed out from Chu Bai's forehead, and his expression was very grave. Why is this little thing so outstanding? When I was this young master's age, I was still drinking milk. After keeping his folding fan, Chu Bai said gravely, Ali, you are not bad. Uncle is praising me. Dong Huangli even cupped her hands like an adult. However, Ali's answer is too slow. How about this, the last question? Ali can only think for 5 seconds. All of the family heads that were present gasped. This son of an aristocratic family is too despicable. Qingya shouted out coldly, what do you mean by this? Miss, don't be angry, Ali is still a child, I won't be serious. Chu Bai's words once again proved how shameless he was. Everyone wanted to look down on Chu Bai, but in the end, Chu Bai was still the son of an aristocratic family. Alright, this is the last question, Ali will agree to it. Dong Huangli was even more unwilling to back down. Chu Bai smiled cheerfully, alright. No matter what the result is, Uncle still admires Ali a lot. Ali also admires Uncle, to be so serious with a child. Dong Huangli pouted her small mouth. I don't believe your nonsense. Chu Bai smiled and didn't say anything. Waving his folding fan, he slowly said the last question. If you want to live a good life, you have to be cuckolded. This was also what Chu Bai said. Every time after he cuckolded someone, he would say this sentence. That feeling was just too great, especially the expression of the person who was cuckolded, it would be even more colorful. When He heard what Chu Bai said, he shook his head. Don't look at how sloppy this eldest son of mine is. His strength is not below mine, but he doesn't like to fight and kill. Instead, he likes to play with other people's wives and play with those half-empty poems. If not for Dong Huangli stopping them, Qingya and Qin Yutong would have immediately taught Chu Bai a lesson. Meanwhile, Dong Huangli hurriedly passed the question to Wei Chong. After hearing that, Wei Chong was startled. Out of the 5 seconds, 2 seconds had already passed. Hurry up, there are still 3 seconds left, hurry up. Wei Chong became anxious, and the hostility that was coming out from his body couldn't help but spread out, causing the windows to creak. After hearing that, Big Brother Green's eyes shone, then hurriedly raised his hand, I know. Speak. If you want to live a good life, you have to be a good life. Big Brother Green hurriedly said. Everyone looked towards Big Brother Green in disbelief, while Big Brother Green scratched his head embarrassedly. I just said it because I felt like it. Back then, when Big Brother Green was cuckolded by someone, these 2 sentences were still fresh in his memory. It just so happens that these 2 sentences can be put to good use today. Little Brother Red patted onto his big brother's shoulder, giving comfort to his big brother. Wei Chong hurriedly passed the answer over. Dong Huangli instantly said the answer, which was exactly 5 seconds, and she even mocked Chu Bai once. After hearing that, all of the family heads exclaimed in admiration. What a genius! Chapter 323. Xiao Yi led another wave of rhythm, followed by a warm round of applause. Dong Huangli politely expressed her thanks to the lords. Qingya and Qin Yutong let out a sigh of relief. This matter has come to an end, we can't allow Ali to continue messing around. Qingya hugged onto Ali. These fallacious reasoning must definitely have been taught by Yi Hua. This time, when I return back to the city, I have to properly talk to Yi Hua and tell him not to teach children like this. Mommy Qing, don't tell Daddy about this. If not, Daddy will definitely scold Ali. Dong Huangli also knew about this matter, thus she begged Qingya not to tell her father about this matter. Qingya pinched onto Dong Huangli's cheeks petulantly, you still know about it? In the future, you can't be so mischievous anymore. Qin Yutong, who was at the side, hurriedly kept her phone, and had an expression as if nothing had happened. In actuality, the video had already been sent out. Ali, don't blame Aunt Qing, Ali is the one who said it too late. Chu Bai had a dazed look on his face. He hadn't expected that he, who had the title of immortal poet, would actually lose to a little fellow. Furthermore, it was under the watchful eyes of so many people. He had completely lost his face. After a long time, Chu Bai slowly said, "Ali, uncle lost." Dong Huangli suddenly felt that this uncle of hers was pretty good. After all, Dong Huangli dares to face failure. Dong Huangli said in a childish voice, "Uncle, don't be discouraged. In the future, you have to learn more and strive to be able to win against Ali as soon as possible." All the clan heads blushed with shame. This little Ali was really sensible. He actually didn't mention the bet. It was too high. As for Chu Bai, he didn't expect that Ali would actually comfort him. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. However, as a son of an aristocratic family, his words were like spilled water. Since uncle has lost, then uncle will be Ali's little brother from now on. Chu Bai adjusted his heartbeat. Losing wasn't scary. What was scary was not daring to face it. It would affect his cultivation in the future. Chu Bai's words caused all the patriarchs to be startled. Originally, he was a son of an aristocratic family with a shameless image, but it seemed like he had suddenly changed. In this kind of situation, he still wanted to fulfill his promise. As expected of the son of an aristocratic family, he had a sense of responsibility. Yi Xiao, who was standing outside, said lightly, "Old Chu, your eldest son has a good temperament. He will be able to take on great responsibilities in the future." "You must be joking. Look at him. He doesn't look like he's going to take on a big responsibility. How embarrassing." Yi Xiao smiled and said, "It would be great if my son had this kind of personality. He only knows how to lead a befuddled life all day long. The next generation of the Yi family can't be guaranteed." Chu He felt the same way and said in a deep voice, "That's right. This generation is getting worse. We will be eliminated sooner or later. Old Chu, there's actually another big shot coming tonight, and the sixth aristocratic family in the north will be born tonight." Hearing that, Chu He's expression became grave. "Brother Yi, are you saying that Voidless Realms people are coming over tonight?" "Yeah, why else would Xiao Yi and Bai Cixin come? I was the one who informed them, but they still don't know," Yi Xiao said calmly. A few days ago, Voidless Realms people came to look for Yi Xiao, and asked Yi Xiao to find an opportunity to gather everyone together. And it just so happens that the once-a-year Yuan Linglong auction was going to be held, and thus, Yi Xiao chose to hold the auction today. Just that, to the other aristocratic families, the addition of one more aristocratic family wasn't a happy thing. After all, the amount of resources that Voidless Realm was giving out was limited, and with the addition of one more aristocratic family, they would have to give out one more portion of resources. Back then, Dongfang family was also messed up because of this matter. Back then, because Voidless Realm was giving out longevity fruits, Dongfang family was very strong, and they had the power to suppress 5 aristocratic families by themselves. It was still the same saying, people are afraid of being famous, pigs are afraid of being fat. In actuality, back then, a strange thing happened. Out of the 2 ancient godly items that were found, one of them went missing, and the one that went missing was precisely the one that Dongfang family possessed. Voidless Realm sent people to investigate, but they didn't find anything. As time passed by, the matter slowly faded away. "Brother Yi, looking at the time, it seems like it will be time to give out longevity fruits again next year." Chu He's tone carried a hint of coldness, seemingly wanting history to repeat itself. Yi Xiao silently nodded his head. "That's right, how much we get is completely decided by the families below us, but next year, there will be one more aristocratic family." This longevity fruit was Voidless Realm's specialty, and it only appeared once in 100 years. There were around 1,000 of them, among which, Voidless Realm kept 900 of them for themselves and distributed them to disciples who contributed, and the remaining 100 of them were distributed to aristocratic families. However, it was not to be distributed evenly. Instead, it was to get the support of the families under the aristocratic families. Of course, this was only for publicity purposes. After all, the longevity fruit was strictly kept a secret. If news of it leaked out and they found out who had done it, it would be a matter of extermination. The 5 aristocratic families did not dare to act recklessly. However, the clan was completely unaware of the longevity fruit every 100 years. They thought that it was an evaluation of the aristocratic families. Back then, the Dongfang family was very powerful and had won over 80% of the families. This made the other families envious. Out of 100, you took 80, and the remaining 20 was divided among 5 families, with each family having 4. The 5 family heads couldn't sit still anymore, so they discovered the tragedy. This was also the reason why Yi Shao wanted to help Tang Wushuang back then. Actually, in his heart, he wasn't really going to help Tang Wushuang snatch the ancient godly item. He was just putting on an act to get Tang Wushuang to do him a favor. When the time came, Tang Wushuang would vote for Yi Shao. There was a reason for Voidless Realm to distribute the wealth like this. Voidless Realm was suppressing the number of wealth and letting aristocratic families do more good deeds. The more work, the more benefits. The Dongfang family had done too many good deeds, but in the end, that's right. Another portion has to be given out. He let out a long sigh. No one heard their conversation, all of them were looking at little Ali taking in a lackey. As a parent, Qinya definitely had to stand out and speak up. My Ali is still young, let's forget about the bet just now. Hearing what Qinya's mom said, little Ali didn't protest. After all, children have to listen to their mommy. It is a pity that such a smart and quick-witted lackey is going to be wasted. I still want to expand the strength of the buried love family. Chu Bai's expression was firm. It seems like it's not okay for me to not be a lackey. Young lady, what you said is wrong. Everyone is an independent entity, and Ali is the same as well. For this kind of matter, Ali should definitely be the one to make the decision. Chu Bai wasn't afraid of losing. Besides, wouldn't it be better for him to lose? After all, following Ali every day is the same as being able to see the two ladies every day. Qinya and Qin Yutong had never seen such a shameless person before, to actually fight to be a child's lackey. It must be said that Chu Bai's decision was fortunate. It can't be said that he was fortunate, but rather, he had cultivated his fortune for many years to be able to become Donghuang Li's lackey. Take a look at the Green and Red brothers. Ever since they met Donghuang Li, their lives had undergone an earth-shattering change. Don't look at how Ali is still young right now. If I acknowledge her as my big brother, I will be able to bring honor to my ancestors in the future. However, different from the Green and Red brothers, Chu Bai joined the buried love family with a purpose in mind, and what he liked more was to become a married woman. Of course, in Yihua's group, there wasn't a single woman that you can afford to offend. They aren't frivolous women that you can easily swindle with just a few words. Chapter 324. Mommy Qing, Daddy already has so many underlings, and Ali only has Uncle Green and Uncle Red, there are too few of them. Donghuang Li said while stammering. Look, Ali is still so young, but she has already been led astray by Papa. She even wants to take in underlings. This caused Qinya to faint from anger. In the future, I will have to supervise Ali together with Donghuang Baiji. I must definitely not let Ali have any bad thoughts. However, Qin Yutong's way of thinking was different. As expected of brother-in-law's child, Ali had already started taking in underlings since he was young, and when he grows up, wouldn't he be able to soar into the sky? However, Ali's words were heard by some people. Little Ali's papa had a lot of underlings. This was a very important clue. He had to remember it. The most important thing was that little Ali actually had 2 little brothers. This was too exaggerated. It was likely that the adults were just teasing her. Green and Red brothers are the love burial family's left and right law enforcers, and Donghuang Li is a big shot. In the future, Donghuang Li will have to carry forward the love burial family. Qinya said tenderly, Ali, children cannot be like this. Wah, Ali wants a little brother, do you want? Donghuang Li immediately started throwing a tantrum, causing Qinya to feel helpless. If Donghuang Baiji was here, Donghuang Li might not dare to create trouble. After all, Donghuang Li was rather afraid of her mother. However, right now, Dong Huangli was Qinya. Dong Huangli dared to act like this because Qinya wouldn't blame Dong Huangli heavily, and would even compromise with Dong Huangli. Don't underestimate Ali. Ali is very smart. No. Qinya didn't know how to coax a child. After all, Dong Huangli had always been very obedient. Wo Ali wants daddy. Dong Huangli immediately used her ultimate skill, causing Qinya to be caught unprepared. Qinya had no choice but to seek help from her little sister. Qin Yutong spread out her hands. It is still better for you to make the decision yourself. Miss, don't force the child. You have to let him fly, Chu Bai said with a smile. Qinya coldly looked at Chu Bai, expressing that she really wanted to let him go. Shut up. Facing Dong Huangli, who was crying loudly, Qinya let out a light sigh. Don't cry anymore. Mommy Qin, did you promise Ali? Dong Huangli opened her big watery eyes and asked pitifully. For the first time, Qinya felt that it was very hard to take care of a child. That will have to be approved by your daddy. Qinya could only kick the ball to Yihua. All right. If Papa knew that he had accepted a little brother, he would definitely be happy. Uncle, quickly come over, my mommy Qin has agreed to it. Dong Huangli waved her hand towards Chu Bai. Chu Bai couldn't wait to walk up to the two beauties. Uncle, lower your head. Right now, Dong Huangli was still being carried within Qinya's embrace, and Dong Huangli said to Chu Bai with a smile. As Dong Huangli's little brother, Chu Bai naturally had to listen to Dong Huangli's words. This way, the beauty would have a good impression of him. You don't know, but your impression is already gone. Dong Huangli could be seen poking at Chu Bai's hair with her small hands, then parted Chu Bai's hair from the middle. Chu Bai, who had his head lowered, knew what Dong Huangli was doing, and he had a helpless look on his face. This little Ali is truly very mischievous. Uncle, you look much more handsome like this. Dong Huangli was very satisfied with her masterpiece. Needless to say, this 50-50 ratio really suited Chu Bai very well. It had a hint of arrogance and defiance to it. Uncle, thank you Ali. While speaking, Chu Bai took a look at Qinya and Qin Yutong. When I look at them, they are truly beautiful, to the point that I don't even dare to have extravagant thoughts about them. Towards Chu Bai's gaze, Qinya and Qin Yutong were already at ease. After all, I can't just gouge out the eyes of others just because I look at them, right? Who asked me to be so handsome? Sigh, this is truly vexing. Seeing his son's current appearance, Chu felt resentful towards his son for failing to live up to his expectations. Of course, he also understood that his son's goal was to get close to the two beauties. In actuality, everyone's thoughts were more or less the same. This Chu Bai is quite something. His thoughts are quite meticulous. He actually managed to sneak into the enemy's inner circle and openly follow the two beauties. Song Huang was feeling very depressed. I should be the one standing beside them. But now that I am squeezing into the inner circle, it is very embarrassing. Forget it. Later on, let's see where you all are going to sit. The people that I invited all have their own seats, and since I brought you all here, you all don't have any seats at all. If you don't come with me, you all can only be chased away. However, Qinya and Qin Yutong both forgot that there was still Song Huang. Dear guests, the auspicious time has arrived, let's enter the auction hall. Along with the sound coming from the surroundings, everyone walked into Yuan Linglong's inner circle one after another. The foreplay was very exciting. Little Ali crushed the son of an aristocratic family. I wonder if the later part will be even more exciting. This year's Yuan Linglong's auction is finally going to be interesting. This trip was not made in vain. Within the group, Tang Wushuang was following behind Gue Qingren, and the two of them did not talk much. Just now, Gue Qingren had been sitting at the side and eating melon seeds while reading a novel, and Tang Wushuang was accompanying him. Xiao Yi and Xu Nan, on the other hand, were watching Dong Huangli's performance. Xu Nan also wanted to give birth to an adorable child like Ali. Bai Cixin and her husband Wang Debao were also watching Dong Huangli's performance. Wang Debao was laughing so hard that his stomach was aching, while Bai Cixin was as calm as water. Bai Qi's expression was not very good, seemingly still brooding over the matter that happened earlier. Bai Qi was continuously scolding Dong Fangyu, who was beside him. Dong Fangyu did not resist and kept listening to Bai Qi's scolding, causing Bai Qi to become even angrier. Chu Bai didn't follow his father and followed Dong Huangli instead. After all, the younger brother naturally has to follow his big brother, and he also has to protect the two beauties. Yuan Linglong's appearance was only for the annual auction, and at other times, it was rarely opened. Of course, all of this was decided by Yi Shao. After all, this was Yi family's territory. After passing through the main hall at the front, everyone arrived at a spacious venue. The center of the venue was very clean, and the floor that was paved with jades was emitting out spiritual energy. Those jades were clearly not ordinary jades, but spirit jades. This Yi family sure is generous. The seats had already been properly arranged. The seats were divided into 3 layers, the top, the middle, and the bottom. The tables that were made from green jade and mahogany were very stylish, and on top of the tables, fruits and desserts were placed for the guests to enjoy. Beside every table, there was a servant girl who was serving the guests. Although the servant girls were not as beautiful, they were still very rare. The one on the rostrum was naturally Yi Zhao's, and beside him, there was a seat that was set up. Presumably, that seat was Chu He's. Every single seat had a name written on it, and even on the invitation card, the seats were already marked. Everyone began looking for their seats. Although the seats were divided into 3 layers, it did not mean that the seats at the top would have a high status. Rather, the seats that were closer to Yi Zhao's side would have a higher status. For example, Xiao Yi, Tang Wushuang, and Bai Cixin, all of them were outstanding family heads, and they were very close to Yi Zhao's side. However, Song Huang, the sage doctor, was very close to Yi Zhao's side, and this caused Song Huang's originally displeased heart to become alive again. Enjoying the envy of everyone, this kind of feeling is truly great. Meanwhile, Qingya, who was hugging onto Dong Huangli, was standing at the entrance and observing the situation. This seems to be different from what I had expected. I still have to take my seat. Chapter 325. Qingya looked towards that Song Huang. As expected, he still has a righteous look on his face. So this is the famous sage doctor of the north? This bearing is nothing more than this. What a hypocritical man. CEO Qing, how about sitting over at my place? Xiao Yi walked over and asked. This time, it wasn't Xu Nan who suggested it, it was Xiao Yi who took the initiative to chat with her. CEO Xiao, there's no need. Qingya replied politely. If I sit over at Xiao family's place, wouldn't others think that I'm from Xiao family? Qingya didn't want Yihua to misunderstand. This was a matter of reputation. Xu Nan shook her head and thought to herself, Brother Xiao, why are you so stupid? He already has a family, what's the point of sitting with you? Xiao Yi went into a daze. I'm sorry. It's fine. Qingya was very confused about Xiao Yi's attitude today. Perhaps I should find some time to ask him about it. Of course, Tang Wushuang didn't invite Qingya and sat down with his master. Of course, Bai Cixin didn't either. She just nodded her head politely, and in the blink of an eye, 70 to 80% of the seats were already taken. Qingya, sit over at my place. At this moment, Chen Xuanzong suddenly walked over and said. Although Qingya was very cold towards him, Chen Xuanzong didn't have any intention of giving up, and he also wouldn't back down. Qingya could be heard saying faintly, Fatty, I already have a family, you don't have to say any more. Qingya, why are you doing this? Chen Xuanzong didn't understand. What's so good about that Long Outyan? Although Qingya doesn't know whether Long Outyan's martial arts are deep or not, Qingya knew that Yihua's martial arts were very deep. With a swoosh, Chu Bai walked out from the back while waving his folding fan. He had a very elegant expression on his face. What are you yelling about? I asked you to leave, why aren't you leaving? Are you trying to get a midnight snack? Chu Bai waved his folding fan and said very impolitely. This kind of job of protecting beauties was something that he was very familiar with. Chen Xuanzong knew that Chu Bai was the son of an aristocratic family, and he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Chen Xuanzong had to endure for now. Qinya, I'll go over first then. Chen Xuanzong was still very polite, and even seemed very humble. In actuality, the more he acted like this, the more Qinya hated him. At a time like this, showing off one's strength was the most important thing to do. However, it was still useless, because Qinya was no longer the Qinya of the past, she had now awakened. With Qinya's strength, not a single person present would be able to withstand her attacks. After all, back then when Qinya awakened, Wei Chang's initial judgment was that Death Mage wasn't Qinya's opponent. Furthermore, Death Mage was already strong to an abnormal degree. He was even able to insta-kill a big shot. What about aristocratic families? About blowing air. Therefore, the biggest boss at the scene was Qinya. Actually, there was still a hidden boss. Right now, Dong Huangli knew how to play with fire. Dong Huangli knew how to play with fire, and what she was playing with was a true deviant flame. No one in this place would be able to withstand the flames. Back then, even Yi Zizi had fainted from the flames. Of course, there was also a mini-boss, and that was Qin Yutong. When Qinya was a celebrity, she had completed all of the missions given by the system, and her strength had also reached an abnormal degree. Qinya's strength was almost at the same level as Death Mage. If not, how would Qinya dare to mess around with Yi Zizi? However, this was the limit of the system. If the system wanted to level up any further, it would have to depend on luck. After meeting Yi Hua, the system decisively gave me a mission. Of course, there was also that live stream mission. However, Qin Yutong had already forgotten about it. With such a big backing like brother-in-law, it would be fine for me to just be a spoiled sister-in-law. Why the hell would I even do any more missions? As for Chu Bai, who was beside her, strength-666, I really can't bring it out in public. Qin Yutong secretly took a glance at her big sister, and discovered that big sister is trying to do something tonight? Is she preparing to explode? If she explodes, that would truly feel great. Just that, with big sister's mentality, she would at most scold a few words, and definitely won't kill anyone. It's much better to act cool with brother-in-law. Whoever he wants to get their lunchbox will get their lunchbox, and I won't even give them their salary. Big sister, what should we do? Qin Yutong was already rubbing her palms together. These seats were arranged very neatly, and it was impossible for them to fit into the seats. If we don't add seats, are we going to make big sister stand? Or are we going to chase her out? If brother-in-law were to find out about this, all of you would have to die. Qinya had never encountered such a thing before, but her bloodline was telling her that her bloodline was not to be looked down upon by anyone. Ali is not happy now. They are actually not giving me seats. I am going to tell Daddy about this. Dong Huangli pouted her small mouth and said, if you still don't give me a seat, Ali is going to snitch on you. If Daddy were to find out about this, all of you will be finished. Qinya already knew of Yi Hua's strength. To be able to fight against that shadowy figure for so long, he is even stronger than me. These people are definitely not his opponent. They made me and my child feel wronged, and with Yi Hua's personality, he would definitely kill all of them. Just that, there are good people among these people. Today, I was just tricked by that Song Huang, which is why I ended up in such an awkward situation. Qinya comforted Dong Huangli. Ali, be good, Mommy Qing will find a seat for you. No, Ali doesn't want Mommy Qing to feel wronged. Dong Huangli was very stubborn. She stretched out her little finger, and a beautiful purple flame appeared. Qinya and Qin Yutong's beautiful faces were immediately illuminated by the purple flame. If this little flame were to be thrown out, then basically, everyone present would be dead. Ali, how did you make this happen? Chu Bai cried out in surprise. He didn't sense the aura of the firmament ghost fire. Because his strength was too weak, he only thought that it was just a flame. Meanwhile, Qinya and Qin Yutong were able to sense that the purple flame contained a terrifying might. It was not an exaggeration to say that everything within a circumference of a mile would be turned into scorched earth. "Uncle, do you want to play with it?" "I will let you play with it." Dong Wangli didn't know the might of the firmament ghost fire at all, and she thought that she could let others play with it. And Chu Bai really stretched out his hand to touch this man who didn't care about his life. Qinya shouted out gravely, "Don't touch it." Chu Bai almost touched it, but he was stopped by Qinya. "Ali, quickly retract the flame." Qinya wrinkled her brows. Why does Ali know such a terrifying technique? Without even thinking, I already know who taught Ali. I don't even know what to say to Yi Hua anymore. How can such a dangerous technique be taught to a child? If the child were to act recklessly, wouldn't we be finished? Seeing that Qinya was a bit angry, Dong Huangli retracted the firmament ghost fire. "Mommy Qing, don't be angry." Acting coquettishly was Ali's way of doing things. "Ali, is this what Daddy taught you?" Qinya asked. Dong Huangli nodded her head. "What else did Daddy teach you?" Hearing what Qinya said, Dong Huangli wanted to show off again. 10 different types of flames could be seen appearing on Dong Huangli's fingertips. Qinya and Qin Yutong's mouth twitched. Brother-in-law sure dares to teach. Qinya was helpless. This time, when I go back, I definitely have to hold a family meeting. In the future, the child's education and learning of techniques will all be taken care of by me and Baiji. Ali sure is formidable. This magic trick is awesome. Chapter 326. This was a follower who could wave a fan and shout 666. "Alright, Ali, quickly put it away. You can't casually play with fire in the future. It's very dangerous." Qinya was very attentive in teaching Dong Huangli, and Dong Huangli was also very willing to listen to Qinya. Dong Huangli felt that Qinya was a lot gentler and easier to talk to than her mom. Mama always had a straight face. Recently, this situation had improved a lot. Dong Huangli retracted the flames on her 10 fingers, Li understands. While they were talking, everyone had taken their seats. Only the 3 of them were still standing. The situation was a little awkward. Chu Bai, who was behind him, didn't say anything. This beautiful lady definitely wouldn't accept his help, so there was no need to get involved. Qin Yutong only thought that since someone came to act cool, then I am already prepared to slap that person's face. It has been a long time since I caused trouble, and my hands are a bit itchy. If that was the case, then Qin Yutong would be disappointed. 2 attendants could be seen carrying a table and walking over, and placing the table beside Qinya. One of the attendants said, "Miss, this is prepared by my master for you." Qinya looked towards Yi Shao who was on the rostrum, and the latter nodded his head with a smile. However, Qinya returned the greeting very politely. "I feel that this Yi family's family head is very gentlemanly, or perhaps, he is giving face to the son of an aristocratic family, but who knows?" The other family heads were still very surprised. Ever since Yuan Linglong opened for business, something like this had never happened before. At first, it was Xiao Yi, then it was Bai Cixin, and now it was Yi Shao. Just who was this woman to be able to receive such treatment? Everyone was curious. Song Huang was extremely displeased. Initially, as long as they were willing to lower their heads to Song Huang, he would let bygones be bygones. But he never thought that such a thing would happen. All the plans today had been disrupted. To Qinya, since she was already here, she might as well watch the auction first before leaving. Qinya brought along her little sister and sat cross-legged at the table, while Chu Bai sat at the back and waved his fan in boredom. This auction is so boring, there isn't even a chance to be a hero and save a beauty. As the family head, Yi Shao stood up and began to speak. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly heard by everyone. "First of all, I would like to welcome everyone here. This Yi is deeply honored. Today's auction items will be provided by my Yi family, and all the income will be donated to the impoverished mountainous areas. At the end of his speech, the audience applauded enthusiastically. By the side, Chu He's expression changed slightly. This Yi Xiao was very generous, using such a method to win over people's hearts. From the looks of it, he was building a good foundation for next year's longevity fruit. It seemed that he had to act as well, and the other three families were probably preparing to act as well. Big sister, should we take some back? Qin Yutong asked curiously. Qinya said faintly, do you have money? Qin Yutong paused, then rolled her eyes. Right now, my food and lodging are all brother-in-law and big sisters. I have no choice but to lower my head when living under the eaves. However, regarding charity, Qinya felt that she still had to do it. I might as well learn from Yi Hua and donate all of my income to charity. In the future, I will just have to rely on Yi Hua to support me. If Yi Hua knew what Qinya was thinking about, he would definitely jump up. Leisure Bar's business was already not good to begin with, and if I were to still donate money, my entire family would have to go hungry. However, Qinya felt that her way of thinking was pretty good. Men, after all, have to give me some pressure. If not, how can I just stay at home all day and not go out to work? I have to discuss this matter with Baiji. In the future, I and Baiji will stay at home and take care of the child, while Yi Hua will be responsible for raising the child. Qinya's way of thinking was pretty good. If the Supreme Overlord were to go out and carry bricks, Yi Hua would most likely be angered to death. Dong Wangli, who was eating on a big apple, said with a smile, Aunt Qing, don't be sad, Daddy is even poorer than you. Pfft, Qin Yutong laughed. Speaking of which, although brother-in-law is very powerful and disdains to go out and earn money, he still has to live his life. Every time I see brother-in-law asking big sister for money, it is simply too amusing. However, big sister is also a demon that dotes on her husband, and will always listen to brother-in-law's request in every way possible. I heard that recently, brother-in-law's living expenses have increased to 100 RMB per day. Furthermore, it was through WeChat transfer. Yutong, when do you plan to start working? Qinya asked. Big sister, can we not learn from others? Everyone is working, but I, Qin Yutong, am not working. Hee, just wait to starve to death in the future. Qinya laughed dryly. Qin Yutong held onto her big sister's arm and said sweetly, don't I still have big sister? How can I bear to let my little sister starve to death on the streets? Dong Wangli hugged onto Qinya and said, what Aunt Qing said is right, Ali will have to rely on Mama Qing in the future. Qin Yutong and Dong Wangli high-fived each other. Qinya was helpless. Seems like, only when I don't have money will I be able to improve myself. You want money? I have a lot of money, how much do you want? Chu Bai, who was at the back, saw the opportunity. Qin Yutong looked at Chu Bai in disdain, who wants your money? Even if I, Qin Yutong, starve to death, I won't want your money. That's right, even if Ali goes to beg for food, you can't use your little brother's money. Wow, what an ambitious person, Chu Bai expressed his admiration towards Ali. Just as the three of them were talking, the first auction item had already been carried onto the auction stage by the staff. The person in charge of the auction was an old man, and the old man seemed to be very experienced. The staff could be seen taking off the cloth covering the auction stage, and a commotion could be heard. On the stage, a small bottle could be seen. The workmanship of the bottle was fine, and the bottle was golden in color. Although the opening of the bottle was blocked, a pleasant fragrance still floated in the air, shocking everyone. The old man said unhurriedly, this item is bejeweled jade immortal dew, a product of Voidless Realm. Yi family head was fortunate enough to receive Voidless Realm's reward, and today, Yi family head even brought it out to be auctioned. The bright jade immortal dew has the effect of strengthening the body, and it is also known to cure all kinds of diseases. Cultivators who drink it can even stabilize their strength, but this is not the greatest use of the bright jade immortal dew. It can adjust the body functions of women, making them more beautiful, slow down aging, and maintain their youth forever. The scene was silent for a moment. What followed was the exclamations of the women. In terms of appearance, it was a woman's life. And this small bottle of bejeweled jade immortal dew was the antidote to their rebirth. Who doesn't wish to become more beautiful and alluring, obtain the favor of men, and want to become like Qinya even more? Even Bai Cixin was tempted, not to mention the others. In actuality, Tang Wushuang was also moved. Qin Yutong muttered, "Is it really that mystical?" Qinya said tenderly, "The effect of those meats is 1,000 times better than this." "I think so as well." Qin Yutong muttered. Qinya knew that the bright jade immortal dew was nothing more than spring water that fell from the sky in voidless realm. However, compared to those meats that Yi Hua brought with him, the bright jade immortal dew was far too inferior. However, to them, this bright jade immortal dew might be a treasure. Chu Bai, who was at the back, was unconvinced. This bright jade immortal dew is a treasure, and yet, it is actually being described as mineral water by them. Ladies Qin, although I don't know what meats you two are talking about, this bright jade immortal dew is indeed amazing. Chu Bai felt that there was a need to give the two of them some knowledge. So spicy, so spicy, so spicy. Dong Huangli ate a piece of marinated duck. Who knew that the marinated duck was super spicy? Qinya suddenly recalled that she saved a few bottles of bright jade immortal dew. Although the quality of the bright jade immortal dew cannot be compared to those meats, it is still qualified to be used as mineral water. Stretching out her slender hand, Qinya took out a bottle of Nongfu spring water. Chapter 327. According to the clan's historical records, this kind of cultivation technique only existed in ancient times. And the beauty in front of him actually knew how to do it. Just who was she? Qinya twisted open the bottle cap, and immediately, a burst of fragrance floated out. The corner of Chu Bai's mouth twitched violently. Isn't this the smell of bejeweled jade immortal nectar? Although he had only drunk a small bottle before, the taste was still fresh in his memory. Dong Huangli took a look at the small bottle that was below the stage, then took a look at the mineral water bottle that was in Qinya's hand. What was even more ferocious was that Dong Huangli held onto the mineral water bottle and started drinking madly. Half of a bottle of jadeite immortal dew was gone in an instant. Chu Bai felt his heart ache when he saw this. The amount that I drank at that time should be around the size of a bottle cap, right? Aunt Qin, this water is very tasty. It's almost the same as the water that Ali's house has. You should drink some too. Dong Huangli passed the water over. Good things should naturally be shared. Qin Yutong was also not polite, and immediately picked up the cup and started drinking. Not bad, very sweet. Looking at the empty bottle, Chu Bai was stupefied. This was too savage. Too savage. However, Qinya took out another bottle of water and placed it on the table, then said with a smile, "This water is very effective in quenching thirst." Oh my god. They actually used the luminous jade immortal dew to quench their thirst. Detoxify the spiciness. Prodigal. What a prodigal. Unforgivable. Uncle, do you want a cup? Dong Huangli asked with a smile on her face. Seeing that her uncle was embarrassed, Dong Huangli poured a cup of wine and passed it to Chu Bai. Dong Huangli even spilled a lot of wine, causing Chu Bai to feel like crying. Thank you, Ali. Chu Bai held the paper cup in his hand as if he had received a treasure. There's no need to thank me. Dong Huangli said with a sweet smile. It has been a long time since I drank the water that I drank at home. Chu Bai looked at the bejeweled jade immortal nectar in his hand, not daring to take a bite. Instead, he stuck out his tongue and licked it. It was still the same feeling, just like first love. He actually used a paper cup to contain it. What a waste of a heavenly treasure. He even spilled so much of it. It was comparable to an auction item. With the bejeweled jade immortal nectar that was able to alleviate the spiciness, Qin Yutong and Dong Huangli began tearing the marinated duck with soy sauce with their hands. Sis, make more in the future. It's really good. Qinya smiled and said, all right, next time, I will get a big bucket to collect the water. Chu Bai, who was at the back, immediately spurted out his drink, using a bucket to catch the water. Can you guys take into consideration the feelings of a little loser like me? It was delicious. Everyone present revealed greedy gazes as they stared at the small bottle in the middle. They had no idea that these people were drinking the jadeite immortal dew like water, and it was a bottle of jadeite immortal dew. In the future, he would have to switch to barrels. Meanwhile, Qinya straightforwardly took out all of them. The speed at which the little fellow drank water was rather fast. 3 bottles of Nongfu Mountain Spring version of jadeite jade immortal nectar were placed on the table. Behind him, Chu Bai was already numb. This woman was too mysterious. No, they were all very mysterious. The starting price of the Jasper Immortal Dew is 1 spirit stone, the auctioneer shouted. Hearing this rule, everyone was confused. They didn't expect that this auction would be converted into spirit stones. A spirit stone was worth around 1 million. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was just a worthless stone. However, it was of great help to cultivators. Yi Xiao smiled and said, I will convert these spirit stones into money and donate them. Chu He felt that Yi Xiao's goal was very unclear. Spirit stones were rare. Although there was a price, very few people sold them. After all, they were cultivation items. Could it be that Yi Xiao wanted a large number of spirit stones? 10. Wang Debao was the first to bid. As expected of a nouveau riche, he immediately bid 10 spirit stones. In actuality, what Wang Debao was thinking right now was that after my wife drank the jadeite immortal dew, she would become even more beautiful, and then, that feeling would definitely be able to soar. How could Bai Cixin not know what her husband was thinking? However, she didn't say anything and just watched quietly. Everyone present sighed. This Wang Debao is so shameless, he actually raised the price to 10 spirit stones in one go. Although I can exchange it for 10 million spirit stones, if I were to use 10 million spirit stones to buy spirit stones, how long would that take? The wives of the various family masters started acting coquettishly and gave out all kinds of tempting conditions. As long as they could obtain the jadeite immortal dew, they would do whatever they wanted. Hearing their wives giving out such conditions, the various family masters were all filled with adrenaline. 20. Xiao Yi shouted faintly. Xiao Yi wanted to bid for the bottle of jadeite immortal dew and give it to Shu Nan. During this period of time, Shu Nan had been working very hard, running all over the place for Xiao Yi, and even being willing to die for Xiao Yi. How could Xiao Yi not take good care of his beloved wife? This bottle of jadeite immortal dew naturally has to be bid for Shu Nan. Guo Qingren was peeling peanuts while reading a novel earnestly. He said to Tang Wushuang, who didn't dare to bid, Wushuang, this bottle of jadeite immortal dew will be very useful to you, it will be the icing on the cake. Icing on the cake. Become even more like a woman, Tang Wushuang gasped for air. Becoming a woman is something that will happen sooner or later. Then, even if I have to become a woman, I have to become a beautiful woman. 25. Tang Wushuang shouted out in a low voice. Xiao Yi looked towards Tang Wushuang, thinking that Tang Wushuang was bickering with him. Just like that, the price rose to 25 spirit stones, and a few family masters wanted to retreat. After all, 25 spirit stones was almost half of their family's wealth. For a bottle of water that could make a woman beautiful, the various family masters felt that the price-performance ratio was not high. However, this also made the wives beside them very unhappy. If I don't get this bottle of water, don't expect me to drink water for you in the future. 50. Wang Debao shouted out in a rich and imposing manner. These 50 spirit stones were already the sum of the family's wealth. Everyone felt that this Bai family was indeed formidable, to have collected so many spirit stones. Just as Xiao Yi was about to increase the price, Shu Nan, who was beside him, hurriedly stopped him. Brother Xiao, don't increase the price, we are currently developing, and spirit stones have a lot of uses. Indeed, for example, gifting a piece of spirit stone to another family, that would be a huge debt of gratitude. Shu Nan, you have helped me so much, it's just a few spirit stones, Xiao Yi, can still afford it. After finished speaking, Xiao Yi shouted out loudly. 55 spirit stones. Shu Nan was very touched, and she lightly leaned onto her husband's side. Everyone felt that the three families were going to fight against each other, and it was better for them to not participate in it. 60 spirit stones. Qin Xuanzong suddenly shouted out. As for why he increased the price, it was because Xiao Yi shouted out. As long as Xiao Yi was in pain, paying a bit of spirit stones was nothing. However, when Qin Xuanzong returned this time, he didn't bring a lot of spirit stones with him. Qin Yutong raised her head and drank another cup of spirit stones. I feel like I'm going to get drunk. Qin Yutong was a bit muddle-headed as she held onto her chin and said foolishly. Dong Huangli had already fallen asleep while lying on Qin Ye's bosom. Dong Huangli's face was bright red, and she looked very cute. From time to time, Dong Huangli would purse her lips. The effect of Voidless Realm spring water was indeed not bad, but if one were to drink too much of it, it would make one feel drunk. If one were to drink a cup of this spring water every day, one would be completely satisfied. As for Qin Yutong and Dong Huangli, for the sake of getting rid of the spiciness, they drank 2 bottles each. Chu Bai, who was at the back, had unknowingly finished drinking the spring water as well. Right now, he was secretly licking the cup, wanting to drink every single drop of the spring water. Chapter 328. 65. Wang Debao increased the bid again. Everyone was astonished. He was indeed a prodigal. Xiao Yi was about to bid again. This time, Shu Nan really stopped him. Brother Xiao, I know your intentions, but I can't increase it anymore. It's not worth it. For you, everything is worth it, Xiao Yi said affectionately. Brother Xiao, have you forgotten about Sister Nangong? The Xiao family is currently in a difficult time, don't pay the price for these useless things. Shu Nan had no choice but to say Nangong Sini. Only then would Xiao Yi let go. Thinking about the frozen Nangong Sini in the basement, Xiao Yi slowly put down his hand and a desolate expression appeared on his face. Brother Xiao, big sister Nangong also hopes that you can make the Xiao family flourish. Xiao Yi took a deep breath. I understand. Thank you, Shu Nan. Shu Nan smiled. Xiao Yi had changed a lot. He wasn't as impulsive as before. He had learned to endure. 70. Tang Wushuang increased the price once again. When Qin Xuanzong saw that Xiao Yi wasn't going to add on anymore, he didn't add on anymore. Right now, it was Wang Debao versus Tang Wushuang. Prodigal versus Soldier King. No, it was a prodigal against a soldier king who was about to change. Wang Debao cast a glance at Tang Wushuang, who was not far away, then shouted out coldly, 100. Tang Wushuang's expression congealed. This was already a third of Tang clan's spirit stones. 101. A moaning sound could be heard coming from the other side, and Qin Yutong shouted out drunkenly. Qin Ye pinched her little sister. What are you randomly shouting for? Do you even have spirit stones? Qin Yutong stuck out her tongue. What I said just now was just drunken talk, it doesn't count. 102. Song Huang shouted. When Holy Dr. Song took action, everyone was amazed. As expected of Holy Dr. Song, he took out hundreds of spirit stones. Song Huang just wanted to teach this girl who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth a lesson. Besides, he had only added one, so the Tang family and the Bai family wouldn't have to change their names, right? Wang Debao was about to shout when Bai Cixin, who was beside him, said softly, it's done. Wang Debao was a good boy. He was a man who listened to his wife. Tang Wushuang was currently pondering. 100+ spirit stones is a bit too much, and I still need to use spirit stones for my cultivation. 102, going once. The auctioneer began the countdown. Song Huang's expression was a little strange. I only added one, and you guys stopped calling me. It seems like you guys are working together to screw me over. 102 going twice. 102 going thrice. Congratulations to Sacred Dr. Song for obtaining the Jasper Immortal Nectar. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Song Huang squeezed out a smile, stood up, and cupped his hands in front of his chest. 102 spirit stones. I've only collected 103 of them after so long. In an instant, there was only one left. It's all because of that Qin Yutong. This jinx. He had to make her pay. Especially now that she was showing a gloating smile, it was simply intolerable. Mommy Qing, Ali feels so hot. Dong Huangli shouted out with her eyes closed. After taking a look at Qin Yutong, who was at the side, Qin Yutong's forehead was also emitting fine beads of sweat. He drank too much. Qinya had no other choice but to take out the star-cleansing fan that Yihua had given her back then and lightly fan it. Feeling the refreshing breeze, Dong Huangli gradually fell asleep again. Qin Yutong took out the golden fan that her brother-in-law gave her and immediately fanned herself. It's so hot. Fortunately, the power of the two fans was sealed by Yihua. If not, with Qin Yutong's hair, something bad would definitely happen. Qin Yutong, are you hiding something from me? Seeing that her little sister took out a fan for no reason, Qinya asked curiously. Qin Yutong pouted her mouth. He who doesn't have some skills? It seems like my little sister is hiding something very deeply. This is good as well, at least I don't have to worry about her. Chu Bai, who was at the back, didn't want to say anything anymore. We really can't afford to offend her. The auction was still continuing, and everyone's gaze moved towards the second auction item. When Qinya and Qin Yutong saw the second auction item, they couldn't help but look at the fan that was in their hands. Why is the auction item today almost the same as the one that we are using? The second auction item was also a fan. The old man could be heard saying slowly, this fan's name is Ancient Comb, and it was personally made by Yi family head. The feathers are made from the wings of spirit beasts, and the skeleton is also made from the bones of spirit beasts. It has the effect of having a cool breeze caressing one's face, and it can also be used as a spirit artifact in battle. The starting price is 1 spirit stone. The two sisters took a look at their own fans, then let out a breath, then started fanning themselves again. Spirit beasts are nothing. I have seen ancient godly beasts in Voidless Realm back then, and these two fans are made from ancient beasts, and they are existences that are even more supreme than ancient godly beasts. Towards this kind of beautiful and spirit artifact fan, all of the family heads were quite fond of it, and they all fought to bid for it. However, to Bai family, this spirit artifact could only be considered as ordinary. After all, Bai family already had an ancient godly item, 9 Demons Punishing Tower. And Xiao Yi also had an ancient godly item, Xianyuan Sword, and thus, this spirit artifact was nothing to him. Thus, in the end, the spirit artifact was bought by a family head for 15 spirit stones. The auction was still continuing, just that, Qinya and Qin Yutong felt bored. Big sister, let's go back, I'm tired. Qin Yutong yawned. Qinya was also a bit sleepy. This auction is truly boring, I don't know what they are so excited about. Of course, other people would be excited. These spirit artifacts are all made of spiritual energy, and it is such a rare opportunity that only appears once a year. In order to increase their family strength, all of the family heads were putting in quite a lot of effort. However, just as everyone was fighting over a spirit artifact, the space in front of them suddenly distorted. Everyone raised their head and looked at the space in confusion. Qinya and Qin Yutong looked at the space in front of them curiously, seemingly not intending to leave for the time being and take a look at the situation. When 3 figures walked out from the distorted space, all of the family heads were very puzzled. On the other hand, Yi Xiao and Chu He were startled as they hurriedly stood up, then cupped their hands and shouted, "Greetings to Voidless Realm's ambassador." The scene immediately became quiet. No one expected that someone from Voidless Realm would appear, and soon after, the two hurriedly cupped their hands and shouted, "Greetings to Voidless Realm's ambassador." Qinya was also very surprised. I didn't expect that someone from Voidless Realm would actually come over. I have met this person before. He seems to be someone who specializes in evaluating aristocratic families and families. Baiji had once met him, and at that time, I was also present at the scene. However, my position in Voidless Realm is only second to Yuenda and those old officials. The three people who were standing in the air were an old man and two young men. The old man who was standing in front had white hair and a beard, and was wearing a white robe. Although his eyes were squinted, they revealed a shrewd look. The two young men who were following behind the old man should be the guards. The two young men were wearing white armor, and they were coldly looking at everyone. As expected of Voidless Realm, even the way they appear is so arrogant, and that expression. When Yuquan was looking at everyone to raise his prestige, he looked at someone who he shouldn't be looking at, and the walking stick in his hand almost fell onto the ground. That person actually dares to be the Empress's sister, and just now, I was already disrespectful. I actually used that kind of gaze to look at that person. My crime is unforgivable. Right now, I definitely have to go and pay my respects to the Empress and beg for her forgiveness. Qinya seemed to know what Yuquan's intention was, and she hurriedly sent a voice transmission over. Pretend that you don't know me, just do what you are supposed to do. Qinya didn't want to reveal her identity, mainly because she was afraid that they would try to curry favor with her father, and when the time comes, her father wouldn't even know that he was being sold. After receiving Qinya's voice transmission, Yuquan could finally be at ease. Chapter 329. All the family heads exclaimed in admiration. What does Voidless Realm's people mean by appearing at this time? No matter what Voidless Realm means, being able to meet someone from Voidless Realm in this lifetime, I will have no more regrets. Even though he was just standing in the air, the aura he exuded was truly unstoppable. He was like a high and mighty god. Even Yi Shao and Chu he had to treat him with respect. If Voidless Realm's Empress were to appear, what kind of scene would that be? What kind of glory would that be? What kind of breathtaking beauty would that be? If he could catch a glimpse of it, his life would be worth it. Perhaps, these people would never know that right now, the Empress was currently lying in Yihua's embrace, and Yihua's hands were very mischievously reaching into the Empress's pajamas. Even though she was sleeping, the Empress's beautiful face was still carrying a bit of redness. Xiao Yi and Bai Cixin, who were present, seemed to know the main purpose of today's event. No wonder Yi Shao took the initiative to invite them. So today was the day to announce the event. Yuquan stood in the void and shouted, "By the order of Her Majesty the Empress, we will announce the winner of the 6th aristocratic family." The dignified melody made all the patriarchs present not dare to raise their heads to look at it. However, the thought of being able to witness the birth of the 6th aristocratic family excited everyone. This was a historic moment. Furthermore, the 6th aristocratic family was either the Shao or the Bai family, and it felt like the Bai family had a higher chance of winning. Maybe a miracle would happen. Xiao Yi's personal strength was still very strong. Yi Shao floated in front of Yuquan and respectfully said, "Ambassador, why don't you sit down and drink some water first? The auction is about to end, and the wine has already been prepared for you." Of course, Yi Shao wanted to curry favor with him in every possible way. If this ambassador could say a few good words in front of the Empress, it would be a great help to the Yi clan. Yuquan felt that it was beneath him to drink the wine here, and he also wouldn't wait for the so-called auction to start. Voidless Realm's arrival, no matter what you open, you will have to stop. However, the situation today was different. The Empress's best friend was present. Perhaps she was here to participate in the auction. He had already been disrespectful just now. If he disturbed her mood again, wouldn't that be adding fuel to the fire? Yuquan nodded. Then, he would wait for the auction to end. Yi Shao was delighted. It would be great if there was a chance to chat. When the time came, he would see what this ambassador needed and he would do his best. "Please follow me, Ambassador," Yi Shao said respectfully. "Just get me a seat over there," said Yuquan lightly. Yi Xiao looked in the direction of Yu Quan's gaze and saw that he was standing beside the two women. What was going on? Although puzzled, Yi Xiao still hurriedly said, "Ambassador, that place is not suitable for people like you. The Empress' best friend is sitting there. If I sit in the seat you arranged for me, wouldn't that be disrespectful to her? Are you trying to kill me? Yi Xiao. Since when do I need you to make decisions for me?" Yu Quan questioned coldly. Hearing those words, Yi Xiao's heart sank. He had no idea why the ambassador was so angry. He immediately replied, "I understand. I'll immediately make arrangements for you." Everyone could only see the two of them talking, but they didn't know the content of the conversation. However, they could tell from Yi Xiao's expression that he was terrified. Very quickly, the waiter finished arranging a table and placed it next to Qinya's table. Yu Quan landed on the other side and saw that his table was actually level with the Empress's best friend's table. He almost cursed out loud, "Idiot. Both of you are murderers who want to kill me. You two, move the table back." The two guards at the back naturally recognized Qinya, and they almost kneeled down. Fortunately, they were stopped by Yu Quan. They immediately moved the table back a bit. At this moment, Yu Quan's heart calmed down. He slowly sat down, then waved his hand, indicating for the auction to continue. However, Yu Quan's action caused everyone present to be endlessly shocked. Why does even Voidless Realms people want to sit together with that beauty? Just who is that beauty? She really is an enigma. Furthermore, looking at the attitude of that Voidless Realms people, they seem to be very respectful towards her. This is too mystical. Right now, Song Huang was a bit dazed. Why did this Voidless Realms ambassador choose to sit together with them? Is he expressing his position? Or is this Voidless Realm trying to express their position? A lot of people thought about it carefully. Indeed, that's the case. Could it be that this woman is from Voidless Realm? Chen Xuanzong was also very surprised. I only heard about Voidless Realm recently, and they seem to be very strong. I thought that I should be able to cultivate to Demon Emperor, but I didn't expect that the original world actually changed so much. Xiao Yi and Xu Nan fell into contemplation. The amount of information is too big. Bai Cixin was the same as well. This woman doesn't seem to be simple. On the rostrum, Yi Xiao's expression wasn't very good. After all, he had just been reprimanded by Yu Quan, which gave him a bad impression. However, he was reprimanded for no rhyme or reason. "Brother Yi, what's going on? This Voidless Realm's ambassador's intentions are very strange." Chu He asked in a low voice. "This Voidless Realm's attitude is too strange." Yi Fan shook his head, expressing that he doesn't know either. Could it be that this old man has taken a fancy to those two women and wants to bring them back to Voidless Realm? Another wicked commoner wants to harm this old man. Looking at Dong Huangli, who was in Qinya's embrace, Yu Quan was startled. So the little highness is here too. From the looks of it, the Empress and this bestie of hers have already addressed each other as sisters. If not, why would the Empress be at ease and let her take care of the little highness? Fortunately, I was scanning the entire venue just now. If I didn't scan the entire venue and overlooked the little highness, that would be bad. That would be a great crime of disrespect. Chu Bai sat upright at the side, not daring to move in the slightest bit. Never in his dreams did he expect that a big shot from Voidless Realm would be sitting beside him, causing him to feel a bit dizzy. The auction gradually came to an end, and Bai Cixin was clearly a bit nervous. Whether or not Bai Cixin will be able to become an aristocratic family will depend on tonight. Tonight will be the day that Bai family's fate will be decided. Bai Cixin was an ambitious woman, and her goal was not just to become an aristocratic family. Her goal was to become a big shot. Right now, one of the three big shots is missing, so shouldn't there be an aristocratic family that can replace the three big shots? Restore the power of the three big shots? Whether or not the power of the three big shots will be restored, that will depend on Yihua. Perhaps, one day when Yihua is in a good mood, the power of the three big shots will be restored. If one day when Yihua is in a bad mood, the power of the 3 big shots will be restored. With Voidless Realm's ambassador present at the auction, the family heads were clearly excited. The last few auction items all exceeded the original price. Yi Xiao stood up and said with a smile, "Tonight's auction will end here. Now, let's invite Voidless Realm's ambassador to announce the North's 6th aristocratic family." Yu Quan didn't walk to the center of the stage and directly stood up. If someone were to observe carefully, Yu Quan would be standing behind Qinya. However, Chu Bai, who was at the side, was very nervous and neglected this point. Perhaps because of the distance or the angle, other people couldn't see Yi Xiao clearly, and thus, no one cared about Yi Xiao. Chapter 330. The whole audience was in an uproar. The Xiao family actually announced their withdrawal at this time. Did he know that he wouldn't be chosen, so he took the initiative to give up to save face, or did he have other motives? The crowd couldn't see through this act tough King Xiao. This wasn't the act tough King Xiao's style. Thinking back to the time when he snatched the Xianyuan sword, he was so ruthless that anyone who stood in his way would die. Who would have thought that after the fusion, Xiao Yi would become a completely different person? However, this Xiao Yi was even more terrifying. Even if a lion was injured, it was still a lion. Once it recovered, it would still be an overlord. Bai Cixin was also very puzzled. Although the overall strength of the Xiao clan was not as strong as the Bai clan, however, Xiao Yi's own strength was quite strong, so there was still a chance that he would be chosen. Yet, he gave up just like that. There was definitely a conspiracy behind this. Bai Cixin furrowed her eyebrows. She had a bad feeling about this. "Honey, Xiao Yi's sudden withdrawal is very suspicious," Wang Debao whispered. Bai Cixin sighed heavily. "Yeah, he's different from the Xiao Yi I know. He has become more stable and powerful." It seemed like Bai Cixin had to reevaluate Xiao Yi. But now, she was calm. She had obtained the position of an aristocratic family. Qinya and Qin Yutong were also very puzzled. Why did this Xiao Yi suddenly quit? This is a very good opportunity, and right now, Yu Quan still hasn't set out his name, but it is still a situation of 50-50. Even if I fail this time, I can still fight for it in the future. However, Qinya still didn't know that it was Yi Hua who gave the order. Would Xiao Yi dare to disobey? Yu Quan looked at Xiao Yi and asked in a deep voice, "Xiao Yi, you'd better think it through. If you voluntarily withdraw, you won't have the right to be selected again in the future." "Ambassador, I have made up my mind." Xiao Yi's words were very firm. Everyone felt that Xiao Yi had thought about this for a long time and it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was Yu Quan's first time encountering someone who backed out. This choice was admirable. After all, once one became the head of an aristocratic family, they would be under only one person. Who wouldn't like to stand in the position of an aristocratic family? Guo Qingren, who was sitting beside Tang Wushuang, said indifferently, "Damn it, I finished reading it again. This damned author actually dares to bait my appetite." "Teacher, disciple has caught it for you," Tang Wushuang said respectfully. Guo Qingren nodded his head. "Break their legs after capturing them, lock them in a small black room, and feed them 1 meal a day." "All right." After keeping his phone, Guo Qingren looked towards Voidless Realm's Yu Quan and asked, "Is that person from Voidless Realm?" "That's right, Master." Tang Wushuang's gaze was filled with envy. "If I also have an ancient godly item, I can also go and fight for it." Guo Qingren paused and asked, "That Xiao Yi just said that he quit?" "Yes." Tang Wushuang was very puzzled. "Since you don't plan to fight for it anymore, why didn't you give me the Xianyuan sword back then? After all, this is the ticket for me to enter the aristocratic family. Do you want to make a bet with the Bai family?" Guo Qingren put away his frivolous expression and asked seriously. Tang Wushuang was stupefied for a moment, but soon after, his eyes lit up. "Could it be that Master is planning to do that? Your disciple is willing to bet on it." Gue Qingren smiled and patted on Tang Wuxuang's shoulder. The dagger that had pierced Xiao Yi back then appeared. Master. Didn't you say that this ancient godly item is borrowed? Tang Wuxuang exclaimed in admiration. Gue Qingren chuckled, silly disciple, whose ancient divine instrument would be casually borrowed? That's true, ancient godly items are viewed as treasures by aristocratic families. How can it be possible for them to casually borrow it? However, Master actually possesses an ancient godly item. Why didn't he establish his own family? Furthermore, with Master's strength, wouldn't it be easy for him to become an aristocratic family? Why did he help me? Strange, this is too strange. Wuxuang, Master can only help you to this extent, the rest is up to you. Gue Qingren's gaze was deep. Only he himself knew what his motive was. Tang Wuxuang took over the ancient godly item and said sincerely, disciple will never forget Master's kindness towards disciple. Very good, I hope that you will remember what you said in the future. Yes. Right now, Tang Wuxuang was indeed very grateful to Master. If not for Master, I would have already lost my fighting spirit and muddle-headedly lived the rest of my life. Right now, not only did Master teach me the technique, Master even gave me the right to fight for the Bai family. Master's kindness is too big. But Master, is it too urgent to say it now? Tang Wuxuang was a bit worried. After all, the reason why Voidless Realm came over today was to announce the result of the competition. Gue Qingren unlocked his phone and began searching for other novels on QQ. As long as there is an ancient godly item, before the aristocratic family is selected, anyone can join the competition. Hearing what Master said, Tang Wuxuang felt a lot more at ease. My Tang family will definitely rise up in my hands. After hearing Xiao Yi's affirmation, Yu Quan let out a breath of relief and said, since Xiao family has withdrawn from the competition, then the sixth aristocratic family in the north will be, right now. Before Yu Quan could finish speaking, a voice suddenly rang out. My Tang family wants to join the aristocratic family selection. Yu Quan wrinkled his brows and looked towards Tang Wuxuang, who stood up. At this moment, Qingya and Qin Yutong also looked towards Tang Wuxuang. This situation changed too quickly. Xiao Yi withdrew from the competition, and Tang family who doesn't have an ancient godly item actually dares to say such a thing. If it was in the past, Qingya might have been shocked. After all, these were all big families and aristocratic families. However, it was different now. This was all thanks to Yi Hua. If not for Yi Hua's appearance, so many things wouldn't have happened to Qingya, and she wouldn't even be able to step into the circle of aristocratic families. Thinking about it, there are still many changes. Yi Xiao and Chu He, who were on the rostrum, stood up at the same time. Both of them were shocked by this sudden turn of events. The one who was even more shocked was Bai Cixin. Just as I was about to obtain the position of an aristocratic family master, another variable actually appeared. Xiao Yi also looked towards Tang Wuxuang in disbelief. Did this guy go crazy from thinking about becoming an aristocratic family? He actually dares to say such a thing without an ancient godly item. Even without me making a move, Voidless Realms people will naturally get rid of Tang Wuxuang. Meanwhile, all of the family masters who were present were also shocked. This Tang Wuxuang is really courting death, to actually dare to boast in front of Voidless Realms people. Doesn't he know that this is a crime that will result in the extermination of one's family? Wang Debao felt that he was going to explode from anger. It wasn't easy for me to get my hands on an ancient godly item, and it wasn't easy for me to wait until this moment. Wang Debao immediately jumped up and shouted out towards Tang Wuxuang, Tang Wuxuang, you idiot, do you even have an ancient godly item? Do you know the consequences of deceiving Voidless Realm? Tang Wuxuang looked towards Wang Debao coldly. When did a southerner have the right to butt into my north's big matter? You. Wang Debao was actually speechless. If this Tang Wuxuang dares to speak such arrogant words, then what awaits us is Voidless Realm's destruction. After all, this is Voidless Realm's rule. Tang Wuxuang. Do you know? Before Yu Quan could finish speaking, Tang Wuxuang knelt on the ground and held onto the ancient godly item with both of his hands. The aura of an ancient godly item swept out, causing everyone present to be dumbstruck. When did this Tang Wuxuang get an ancient godly item? Bai Cixin clenched her fist tightly, and when Xiao Yi saw that dagger, faint killing intent emitted out from his entire body. Qin Xuanzong sized up the relationship between these people. The enemy of an enemy is a friend. Right now, Song Huang no longer had the mood to look at these things. Yu Quan waved his hand, and the ancient godly item in Tang Wuxuang's hands slowly floated over. However, when he saw the dagger, Yu Quan's gaze focused. This is actually the ancient godly item that was lost 100 years ago, piercing tomb. Chapter 331. Towards this sudden change, all of the family heads remained silent. However, to be able to see the appearance of an ancient godly item, they were still very excited. Tonight, not only did they see Voidless Realms people, they were also fortunate enough to see an ancient godly item. This trip was not made in vain. Right now, even Yi Xiao and Chu He revealed a shocked expression. When did this Tang Wuxuang get his hands on an ancient godly item? Furthermore, he chose to participate in the election at this time. Isn't this slapping Bai family's face? Originally, the position of an aristocratic family was already in Bai family's pocket, but in just a second, it was destroyed by Tang family. Bai Cixin reckoned that he might even have the heart to kill someone. Yu Quan looked at the ancient godly item in his hand and his expression became gloomy. This ancient godly item can be counted as the lost evidence, but over 100 years had passed since then. Who knows how many times it had changed hands. After all, from a fair point of view, this was something that other people obtained with great difficulty, and they can't be stripped of their qualifications just because of something that happened 100 years ago. Old Chu, don't you feel that this dagger looks very familiar? Yi Zhao's expression was gloomy as he stared fixedly at the dagger in Yu Quan's hand. Chu He had the same feeling as well. Hearing what Yi Xiao said, Chu He said gravely, could this be that dagger? If I didn't guess wrongly, this is Dongfang family's missing dagger, piercing tomb. Yi Xiao wrinkled his brows. Things have become strange. How did Tang family get Dongfang family's ancient godly item? Could Tang Wuxuang be a descendant of Dongfang family? Chu He cried out in surprise. Yi Xiao shook his head, then looked at Gue Qingren who was beside Tang Wuxuang. I feel that the man wearing flowery shorts looks a bit like him. But back then, all of the males in Dongfang family were executed, even the infants were executed. Yi Xiao laughed lightly, did you see it? Chu He's expression stiffened. The one who executed the assassination was Voidless Realms people, and only Voidless Realm would know whether or not the assassination was cleaned up. Furthermore, back then, losing Piercing Tomb is definitely Dongfang family's scheme. They want to regain their title, and they might even look for evidence. Framing an aristocratic family is also a huge crime. Hearing Yi Zhao's deduction, Chu He felt a sense of crisis. It seems like the appearance of this dagger is to deal with the 5 aristocratic families in the north. Right now, Bai Cixin was already unable to sit still anymore. Slowly, she stood up and said, respected Voidless Realms ambassador, isn't participating in the election against the rules? The crowd whispered to each other after hearing this. The results were about to be announced, so suddenly interrupting seemed to be against the rules. However, there were no rules that said that this could not be done during the announcement of the results. In any case, Voidless Realm is the one who has the final say. After all, Voidless Realm is a big power. Everyone was waiting for Yu Quan's answer. The future of these 2 families was in the hands of this old man. With regards to Voidless Realm's internal affairs, Qingye didn't get involved. After all, it was Baiji's matter, and if she were to rashly get involved, Baiji might think too much into it. Family harmony was more important. Therefore, not speaking was the best outcome. Tang Wuxuang, where did this ancient godly item come from? Yu Quan didn't directly tell Tang Wuxuang the answer, and instead, he inquired about the origin of this ancient godly item. Tang Wuxuang replied respectfully, replying to Ambassador, I obtained this ancient godly item by chance from an unremarkable antique shop. An antique shop. All the patriarchs could no longer remain calm. Was there such a thing? This was the easiest way to obtain it in history. The patriarchs felt that they should go and try their luck. Perhaps, they might be able to pick up some leftovers, and when the time comes, they would have a meteoric rise. Yu Quan let out a light sigh. I can't make the decision for this kind of matter, and I still have to report it to the Empress. After keeping the tomb properly, Yu Quan said gravely, this matter is of great importance. This ancient godly item will be temporarily kept for safekeeping, and the Empress will decide what to do with it. Tang Wushuang bowed down and shouted, Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Empress. Regarding handing over the ancient godly item to Voidless Realm for safekeeping, Tang Wushuang didn't have anything to worry about. After all, Voidless Realm wouldn't lose its prestige just because of an ancient godly item. Ambassador. Bai Cixin was in disbelief. She lost her composure and cried out in surprise. Yu Quan said faintly, Bai Cixin, are you planning to openly go against Voidless Realm's rules? The latter's body trembled, and a feeling of powerlessness emerged from the bottom of her feet. I don't dare. Bai Cixin slowly spat out 2 words. However, only Wang Debao who was at the side knew that right now, his wife was already on the verge of going berserk. Towards a huge being like Voidless Realm, no one dared to go against it and could only listen to it unconditionally. Even the current Yi Xiao and Chu He could only lower their heads and listen to it. Yu Quan had to go back and hold a meeting. After bidding farewell to Qinya, the 3 of them stepped into the void and disappeared. After Yu Quan left, everyone let out a sigh of relief. After all, with the people from Voidless Realm present, they felt a lot of pressure. However, the killing intent that was being emitted out from the people from Bai family was still present at the scene. From the looks of it, Bai family and Tang family are going to start a fight. Right now, Xiao Yi's entire body was relaxed, as if he had returned back to the state of being an immortal emperor. It seems like after my reincarnation, my state of mind was too impetuous. I no longer have that steadiness that I had back then. It might be a good thing for me to withdraw from the selection. Today's auction will end here. After finished speaking, Yi Xiao left with a heavy heart. The scandal that happened back then must not be exposed. Chu He understood this point as well. This Tang family must be eliminated. Meanwhile, Chen Xuanzong was preparing to pay a visit to Tang Wushuang. Song Huang stared at Qinya and Qing Yutong. All of my spirit stones are gone. Even if the 2 of you want to sell yourself, you still have to return those spirit stones to me. However, when Song Huang looked at Chu Bai who was standing behind Qinya, Song Huang felt that he should look for some helpers. Furthermore, the helpers should be the kind of helpers that could persuade Chu Bai to give up. Suddenly, a candidate appeared in his mind. Chu Bai should be willing to give him face, and he should be able to offer a high price. 1 woman was worth at least 50 spirit stones, 2 would be worth 100 spirit stones. He was about to break through, so he had to get it back. Thinking about it, he picked up his phone and made a call. After which, a look of joy appeared on his face. He didn't expect him to be in Yuan Linglong, just that he didn't appear. Song Huang hurriedly left to look for Song Huang. This person's name was Yi Tai, and he was Yi Zhao's eldest son. He was a playboy by nature, and he could not be without women. Even so, his strength was not to be underestimated. After all, he was the eldest son of the Yi family. Song Huang came to a resting room in Yuan Linglong's side hall and knocked on the door. Come in. A man's low voice came from inside. Song Huang pushed open the door and entered the living room. There was no one in the living room, but there were sounds of moaning coming from the bedroom. Song Huang let out a breath, then sat on the sofa and silently waited. After quite a while, a tall and sturdy man who was wearing a nightgown walked out of the bedroom. The man's face was calm, and he didn't seem like the kind of person who indulged in debauchery. Song Huang had interacted with Yi Tai before. This Yi Tai was a person who was calm and reserved, but deep down, he liked women. Those who didn't know would think that he was a young and promising son of an aristocratic family. Different from Chu Bai, Yi Tai would snatch whatever he liked without any bottom line. Chapter 332. Young Master Yi, it seems like you are still as majestic as ever. Song Huang was neither servile nor overbearing. After all, he was here to make a deal. Yi Tai smiled faintly and lit up his cigar. Sacred Dr. Song, let's get back to the main topic. Are you telling the truth? Of course, it is a pity that young Master Yi did not go out to take a look. Hee, a boring auction, what is there to see? Yi Tai and his father came at the same time, and Yi Tai just casually grabbed a woman who looked good. Yi Xiao knew his son's character, which was why he told Chu He that his son only knew how to indulge in debauchery. Song Huang didn't waste any time and directly stated his price. Young Master Yi, of course, I will not introduce a woman for nothing. 50 spirit stones for one woman. 50. Sacred Dr. Song sure is arrogant. Yi Tai was a bit dissatisfied and raised his voice slightly. Song Huang insisted on the price in his heart. Young Master Yi will naturally understand after you take a look. However, there is a Chu Bai who is following beside them. Chu Bai? The man who likes to make others wear green hats. That's right, as long as you make Chu Bai back off, young Master Ye's luck will be boundless. Yi Tai laughed lightly. This Chu Bai will naturally give me face, that's fine. I will go and take a look. Sacred Dr. Song, don't lie to me. Although you are famous, I am not that easy to fool. Of course. A trace of viciousness flashed past Song Huang's eyes. I can bring back the dead with my left hand, and I can make people suffer with my right hand. Even your father has to be polite when he sees me. On the other side, Qingye carried Dong Huangli, who was sleeping soundly and prepared to leave the auction. Qing Yutong, who was following beside Dong Huangli, was dizzy. Chu Bai, who was at the back, wanted to go over and support Dong Huangli, but he didn't dare to. His intuition told him that if he were to touch Dong Huangli, he would definitely die. The few of them walked across the stone bridge, and the other patriarchs left one after another with joy in their eyes. They had seen the world tonight. You can leave now. Qingye said faintly. This sentence was said to Chu Bai, who was behind her, but the latter was thinking about other things and didn't pay attention to it. Qing Yutong said dizzily, Brat, you can leave now. If I continue to follow you, I will be finished. Chu Bai reacted quickly and opened his folding fan. After all, his chance had come. Miss Qing, I am your little brother, so of course I have to follow my big brother's footsteps. Besides, this place is very far from the city, so let me send you off to ensure your safety. This is what a little brother should do, Chu Bai said politely as he waved his fan. His words were quite reasonable. The two sisters had sat in Song Huang's car, and right now, Song Huang definitely wouldn't be kind enough to send them back. Of course, Qingye was also able to instantly teleport back to Qingye's house. However, Qingye, who wanted to live an ordinary life, unless it was absolutely necessary, she didn't want to use her strength recklessly. Seeing that Qingye and Qing Yutong did not speak, that meant that they had tacitly agreed to it. Chu Bai said with a smile, Two sirs, please wait for a moment, I will drive the car over right away. Looking at her little sister's dizzy appearance, Qingye shook her head. If you continue to drink a little more, you will be prepared to be picked up by others. After a while, a Mercedes-Benz G-Class drove over, and Chu Bai opened the door like a gentleman. Qingye said thank you, then immediately got on the car. Chu Bai didn't expect that Qingye would be so courteous. Qingye sure is a gentle woman, this kind of woman is very rare in this world. According to the address provided by Qingye, Chu Bai set up the GPS and drove on the small road. Are you sure that this is the road? Qingye asked doubtfully. When they came over, this road was smooth and stable, but now, this road is very bad. Chu Bai was also very gloomy. The GPS arranged this way, it might be a shortcut. It was indeed a shortcut, but it had been a very long time since anyone took this shortcut. However, This also gave Yi Tai and Song Huang an opportunity. Suddenly, the car came to an abrupt stop. Qinya hurriedly stabilized the car, and Ali almost kowtowed to the ground. Meanwhile, Qin Yutong directly knocked into the front seat, and right now, she was rubbing her head and preparing to flip out. This driver's license must have been picked up from the ground, right? What are you braking for? Qinya asked gravely. Chu Bai pointed to the front of the car and said, there are two people blocking the road in front. Qinya and Qin Yutong took a look, and indeed, there were two people blocking the road, and one of them was even Song Huang. Big sister, there is trouble. Qin Yutong shook her head. Qinya sighed. This Song Huang is indeed not a good person. Now that he is blocking the road, it can be well imagined. The three got off the car. Song Huang said to Yi Tai, who was beside him, young Master Yi, is it worth it? Yi Tai stared fixedly at Qinya and Qin Yutong. I didn't expect that there would be such beautiful women in this world. If I had them, what would other women do for me? They would all just serve as foils. It's worth it. Yi Tai's tone was filled with excitement, and his gaze was flickering with greed. I have to get these two women, in the future, I don't have to look for other women at all. Chu Bai opened his folding fan and said with a smile, and here I was wondering who it was, Yi Tai, Song Huang. Young Master Chu, it has been a few years since we last met, and you are still as elegant as ever. Yi Tai greeted with a smile as well. However, Qinya felt that the two of them did not have good intentions, and she even felt that this Chu Bai was in cahoots with them, because he was the one who drove the car here. Chu Bai had a calm expression on his face. Young Master Yi, why did you suddenly change to blocking a robbery? Furthermore, you even teamed up with Sage Doctor, TSK. Yi Tai stretched out his hand and touched his forehead. What's so good about hanging out in a bar? With the two women behind you, in the future, I, Yi, will become an otaku. Hearing what Yi Tai said, Qinya and Qin Yutong's beautiful eyes froze. Chu Bai did not cower in the slightest. Young Master Yi, this is a noble wish of yours. I advise you to go home and wash up, don't embarrass yourself. Chu Bai. If you leave right now, we will treat it as if nothing happened, how about it? I will also give you a big gift. Chu Bai's expression slightly changed. Seems like they came here today with the intention to cause trouble. However, this is good as well, it will give me the chance to be a hero and save the two beauties. Yi Tai, what kind of person do you think I, Chu Bai, am? I will say it here today, if you want to touch them, you have to ask me first. Chu Bai closed his folding fan and said those bold words. He thought to himself that the two beauties behind him would definitely be touched. However, Qinya and Qin Yutong both treated Chu Bai as a suspect, and they were not touched at all. Right now, Song Huang only wanted to get back his spirit stones, and he did not care about anything else. Compared to beauties, Song Huang cared more about strength. Yi Tai snorted coldly. Chu Bai, are you trying to ruin the relationship between the Yi and Chu families? Yi Tai, to think that you would dare to forcefully kidnap women. If it wasn't for your father, you would have been King executed long ago. Yi Tai let out a heavy sigh. Since young Master Chu is not willing to let me, then, I can only let you die here. Oh. You dare to kill me? Chu Bai was a little surprised. I didn't expect that this Yi Tai would actually be so ruthless for the sake of beauties. Song Huang, who was at the side, was also a little stupefied. Killing the son of an aristocratic family, if others were to find out about this, I would definitely be done for. Yi Tai clenched both of his fists tightly, and a dense amount of spiritual energy emerged from his body. With a leap, he fiercely attacked towards Chu Bai's head. Chapter 333. Chu Bai was also shocked. He didn't expect Yi Tai to be so freakish. Big sister, they don't seem to be acting right? Qin Yutong said in a low voice. Qinya nodded her head. Indeed, it doesn't look like it. Chu Bai shouted to the people behind him, "All of you, leave this place quickly." After he finished speaking, a powerful spiritual energy surged out from his fist. His fist gave off a white glow as it clashed with Yi Tai. Bang! A wave of air spread out, and all the windows of the Mercedes-Benz G-Class were shattered. Song Huang. What are you standing there for? Come and help. Yi Tai shouted at Song Huang. The strength of this Chu Bai was extraordinary. Yi Tai and Song Huang were evenly matched. But with Song Huang's help, they would be able to suppress Chu Bai. Song Huang couldn't make up his mind. If he were to help Yi Futian, the consequences would be unimaginable. He wouldn't be able to bear the crime of killing a descendant of an aristocratic family. Song Huang. You are also an accomplice now. Yi Tai turned around and shouted angrily. This saint doctor was as timid as a mouse. Song Huang cursed them for being shameless. They were all shameless people, and they were willing to risk everything for the sake of spirit stones. Chu Bai protected Qingya and Qing Yutong. This is the time for me to act cool. Miss Qing, don't worry. As long as I, Chu Bai, am here, they won't be able to harm a single hair on your head. After saying that, he shot out, thinking that his back view would definitely be very charming, and they would probably be stunned by it. Qing Yutong let out a sigh. This Chu Bai can't win against him, yet he is still sending himself to death. He is just doing this out of goodwill. Qingya said faintly. Chu Bai had to deal with two of them by himself. The disadvantage was very clear, and wounds instantly appeared on his body. This Yi Tai came in the open, and this Song Huang actually dared to use poison needles. He was simply shameless. Chu Bai. If you end your own life, I will give you an intact corpse. Yi Tai shouted arrogantly. They had already fought to this extent, so he could only kill. Chu Bai angrily shouted, as long as I, Chu Bai, am here, the two of you can forget about hurting the two Miss Qing. Humph, then I'll let you be a playboy. Yi Tai shouted coldly. He clenched his fists together and shouted, sealing fist. Meanwhile, Song Huang also appeared behind Chu Bai at the same time, and he shouted in an eerie voice, soul-chilling ice needle. Facing a pincer attack from the front and back, Chu Bai frowned. He used a strange movement technique to escape, but in the end, he was still too slow and was hit by their moves. Pooh! Chu Bai spat out a mouthful of blood. The spiritual energy in his body had been temporarily sealed by that punch, and the soul-freezing chill was eroding his internal organs. He was going to lose his life on the spot today. There are still many young women waiting for me to rescue. However, even if he had to die, he had to put on an act. At the very least, he had to leave an indelible impression in the heart of the beauty. I'll stall for time. You guys leave quickly. Chu Bai stood in front of the two women, slightly bowing his body. His suit was in tatters, and blood kept gushing out of his mouth. Without waiting for Qingya to reply, Yi Tai and Song Huang walked over slowly. Both of them had different expressions on their faces. Yi Tai had an excited look on his face, while Song Huang had an anxious look on his face. Chu Bai, why are you doing this? Let's mind our own business. Is it worth it for two women? Yi Tai's words were full of mockery. However, when he thought about how he would be able to enjoy these two beauties later, his heart started to beat wildly. Chu Bai spat out a mouthful of bloody phlegm and coldly said, "You dare to kill me for them, then I dare to die to protect them." Yi Tai suddenly laughed maniacally. I didn't expect that Chu family's eldest young master was such a righteous young hero. I, Yi, admire you. Seeing that the two women behind him did not move, Chu Bai turned his head around and shouted out gravely, "What are you two still standing there for? Quickly run." They won't be able to run away. Even if you die, I will still be able to get what I want. Yi Tai took out a cigarette and lit it up, admiring Chu Bai's final moments. Sacred Physician Song, do you want a cigarette? No need. Song Huang said gravely. I am truly unlucky tonight. Looking at Yi Tai lighting up the cigarette, Qinya didn't know why, but she felt disgusted. Yi Hua was the only one who could act cool by lighting up the cigarette. Patting onto Song Huang's shoulder, Yi Tai said, "Don't worry, you will get 50 yuan each." Qin Yutong was unconvinced and shouted out, "Am I only worth 50 yuan? Are you blind?" Qinya laughed bitterly. "My little sister is still talking about this at this time." Chu Bai almost vomited out another mouthful of blood. Now is not the time to be tangled about 50 yuan. In this sacred physician's eyes, you two are worth 100 yuan, but in my eyes, you two are priceless. Yi Tai said lecherously. His pair of eyes kept moving back and forth between Qinya and Qin Yutong's body. Qin Yutong shouted out, "Then, I will beat the two of you into 100 yuan today." "Let me do it," Qinya said faintly. "Big sister, be obedient." Qin Yutong sighed and leaned against the door of the car angrily. Qinya hugged onto Dong Huangli and said lightly, "The two of you are very daring." Yi Tai said with a hint of playfulness, "Miss, I even dared to kill the son of an aristocratic family. How daring do you think I am?" "Do you know who my husband is?" Qinya said with a slight smile. "I feel that using the name of my husband makes me very happy." "Your husband?" "I only know that your husband is an idiot for not touching a beauty and letting you come out in the middle of the night." Just after Yi Tai finished speaking, he suddenly felt a pain in his head, and a terrifying aura spread out from his heart. This kind of feeling only lasted for a while before disappearing. Qinya and Qin Yutong's expression stiffened. There is actually someone who dares to scold Yi Hua as an idiot. Qin Yutong has already regarded them as corpses. There is nothing much to say. This is the first time someone scolded brother-in-law. Qinya stared at Yi Tai with her beautiful eyes. "To actually dare to scold my husband, you must be tired of living. Beauty, you can be at ease, follow me, I will definitely not let you get off the bed." After speaking, Yi Tai laughed with a wretched look on his face. Chu Bai was already becoming weaker and weaker, and it seemed like he would faint at any moment. Qinya slowly stretched out her hand, and a green halo appeared on her palm, which immediately wrapped around Chu Bai. Meanwhile, Chu Bai could feel that the life force within his body was quickly recovering, just like a little bean sprout that was sprouting. Not bad, and it is even a female cultivator. Yi Tai became even more fond of Chu Bai. Song Huang faintly felt that the situation was bad. As a sage doctor, he knew that Chu Bai was a half-dead person, and right now, Chu Bai was recovering at an extremely fast speed. "Move back," Qinya said calmly to Chu Bai, and the aura of her bloodline gradually spread out. However, not only did Yi Tai not retreat, he wanted to own her even more. This was a top-grade woman. He was exuding an arrogant aura from head to toe. It would be such a pleasant thing to be pressed under him. Chu Bai stood up, an awkward expression on his face. He had originally wanted to be the hero saving the beauty, but who would have thought that he would be saved by the beauty instead? This was too embarrassing. "Song Huang, go!" Yi Tai shouted. Right now, Song Huang couldn't care so much anymore. The two of them immediately burst forth with astonishing spiritual energy. The surging aura swept through the surroundings, causing the trees to sway violently, as if there was a level 8 or 9 typhoon. Fiery fist. Flying dragon silk. A huge pressure surged towards the three of them. Yi Tai's entire body turned into a fiery fist, whizzing towards them. Song Huang followed closely behind. He turned his chi into threads and transformed them into the shape of a dragon. As he flew through the air, waves of dragon roars could be heard. It made people think that the divine dragon was born. The scene was filled with a terrifying atmosphere. Spiritual chi surged in all directions, and a piercingly cold murderous aura blotted out the sky and the earth. They deserved to be the sons of aristocratic families and the holy doctor of the north. Qinya slowly raised her jade-like arm, and her slender and delicate fingers couldn't help but make people have improper thoughts. Qinya's thumb and middle finger lightly touched together, you're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.